What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
5EC. Chapter 31 Pluton's Clues. Advertise here. Several people returned to the ship, and Lin Chen also learned the latest news from Rocinante. He and his group had been working with Long to rebuild the Republic, and they didn't pay much attention to external affairs. The first thing is about the reward for Daybreak. Lin Chen didn't expect that he would be rewarded even if he didn't go against Marine. But after seeing his 1.5 billion bounty, he felt a little depressed. According to his own strength, he should be at least on the same level as Whitebeard Kaido Charlotte Linlin. But because of the secrecy of his identity, the world government may have thought that he and Daybreak were not a high threat, so they gave him such a small bounty. The second is that Crocodile was deprived of his Shichibukai identity, and Laosha didn't care too much about this. He was doing rebellion and no longer cared about these external objects. The other thing is about the underground world. The entire underground world is divided into forces of different sizes. The most powerful one is Lin Chen's Daybreak organization, which includes Crocodile's underground forces and the Don Quixote family's forces. It's hard to say whether the two are of the same mind, but apparently the Daybreak family is the dominant one. The world government's CP9 organization was also completely damaged in this battle. Not to mention everything, at least it is difficult to see the shadow of CP9 in the underground world, which also facilitates Lin Chen's subsequent work. Finally, there are some remaining forces in the underground world, all of which are vaguely led by one person to fight against Lin Chen's forces, and that person is named Akoku. When Lin Chen heard this person's name, he immediately thought of Akoku from Rock's Pirate. It was still unclear whether the two would collide in the future. His thoughts returned to the ship. In the past few days, Luo's body had gradually recovered under Rocinante's care. Lin Chen and others also knew the child's name, Trafalgar Law. Lin Chen also learned from Rocinante that he had been taking Luo to find a way to cure him for more than half a year. It was not until the auction was held that he found out that Op fruit was among the items in the auction, so he quietly returned to Don Quixote family, used the fruit's ability to steal the Op fruit quietly. Doflamingo didn't know all this. When he led everyone away, Rocinante hid in a nearby warehouse and was not discovered until Enel noticed it. After comforting Rocinante and the two, Lin Chen told them not to be nervous. We are not an evil organization at Daybreak. Don't worry, we are usually very kind. This Monet is also a member of us, and this is her sister Sugar. Pointing to Monet and Sugar on the side, Lin Chen hoped that Rocinante and Luo could truly integrate into the team. Although his method of asking the two to join was a bit violent, it did not affect the relationship between them. At the beginning, Crocodile and Luo Enel is not the same, he is still living well now. Ignoring the two of them, Lin Chen trained Crocodile and Enel's hockey while instructing Monet on how to use his fruit. After this battle, Lin Chen also saw the shortcomings of the two. Crocodile performs very well overall, but observation hockey is still not strong enough. Relying on the combination of observation hockey and sand, Crocodile can form a self-protection zone around his body, but the range is still too small now. This is related to the range of observation hockey, so Lin Chen focuses on training Crocodile's observation hockey. This also caused the blindfolded Crocodile to be severely beaten by Lin Chen. Every time a stick hit Crocodile's body, the people around him were shocked and even looked at Lin Chen more. A bit scared. Enel's shortcoming is his lack of physical strength and combat experience. For this, Lin Chen can only let Crocodile and Enel practice more. Enel, how good are you with your electromagnetic abilities? Brother Madara, although this move is powerful, it is too troublesome to use. I have to find a weapon that I can use. After hearing Enel's words, Lin Chen lowered his head and thought, but he didn't think of any good solution for a moment. Let's put this matter aside for now, I'm going to give you another move. Enel's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Chen's words. Seeing this, Lin Chen said, your physical fitness is not very good. Although you are immune to lightning, lightning can also stimulate your body's potential. You can try to use lightning to stimulate the cells of your body. Of course, this is only a theoretical method, because I also not sure if your body cells will be immune to lightning. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Enel closed his eyes and tried slowly, and soon showed a look of surprise. Successful. My body is usually immune to thunder and lightning, but under my deliberate control, the body's lightning resistance has been reduced a lot. Just after the lightning stimulated my body, I can feel my body tingling. If I increase I believe the electric current will have an exercise effect on the body. Lin Chen's brows widened after hearing Enel's words. As he expected, Logia fruit users can control whether they are immune to the corresponding element or not. In this case, in the future, you will not only stimulate yourself to train, but also don't forget to stimulate Lao Sha and the others to train together. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Crocodile also became interested. After feeling a burst of electrotherapy, his whole body let out a comfortable moan. Several people couldn't help but get goosebumps, and Enel accidentally increased the current a little, which made the unprepared Crocodile tremble, obviously being electrocuted. Monet blinked and looked at Lin Chen. Do I need to train too? Lin Chen smiled and touched Monet's head. You are still young, so of course you have to start training from a young age and win at the starting line. Monet lowered his head, his face full of displeasure. Lin Chen chuckled in his heart. This little girl was still too innocent. He had to let her know in advance that people in society were sinister. As for Monet's fruit development, Lin Chen didn't have any good ideas yet, but just asked Monet to master elementalization first. After looking at Rocinante and Luo who entered the room, Lin Chen sighed in his heart. Crocodile turned to look at Lin Chen and asked, "Where do we go next?" Lin Chen thought for a while and said without hesitation, "Go to the Grand Line." Hearing this, Crocodile turned and the ship began to move towards the Grand Line. Without him, Lin Chen planned to find Tom, and Pluton's clues were with him. Chapter 32 True Several thousand hands block tsunami. Advertise here. After some days of sailing, the group finally approached the water capital. Crocodile seemed very excited along the way. Lin Chen told him the news about Pluton, which was in the hands of a man named Tom, who was also the shipwright who built Roger's ship. Along the way, Rocinante also slowly changed her attitude towards Lin Chen and others. At the same time, Lin Chen also added Luo to everyone's training. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, Lin Chen became very interested in one of the pieces of news. Marine Admiral Kizaru has hunted down the Sun Pirates. The two sides are fighting, and the outcome is unknown. Lin Chen was sure that Kizaru would win this battle, if nothing else happened. Several people came to the water city, and after inquiries from Lin Chen and others, they also learned about Tom's residence. After a while, everyone arrived at Tom's home. But there were some CP9s around who were watching everyone coldly. The world government wants the land. Idlers retreat. Lin Chen chuckled. Several people had already understood Tom's crime and what he was doing now when they inquired about the news. There is no doubt that the world government is eyeing the sea train and Pluton design drawings in Tom's hands, so it did not execute him immediately. Now it is just taking advantage of his last value. Thinking of world government's ugly face and actions, Lin Chen couldn't help but feel his heart swell. Eternity in the eyes Mangekyo slowly turned, and the surrounding CP9s fell one after another. People around him were amazed when they saw this. Lin Chen didn't say anything and took the lead in pushing the door open. As soon as he entered the door, Lin Chen saw an old man who looked like a fishman and was looking at the drawings in his hands and thinking about something. Lin Chen and the others didn't have much reaction when they saw Lin Chen and continued to look at the drawings in their hands intently. Lin Chen did not disturb Tom and stayed aside quietly. It was not until Tom finished reading the drawings in his hands that Lin Chen spoke. "Is it Mr. Tom?" Tom raised his eyes, glanced at Lin Chen and said, "Who are you, sir? What do you want from me?" Lin Chen said, "My name is Madara, and I'm here to invite Mr. Tom to join our Dawn organization. I heard that you have information about Pluton. As for the world government, we will take care of it, so you don't have to worry." Tom was also stunned when he heard that Lin Chen was so straightforward. "Mr. Madara, please come back. I am just a prisoner now. As for Pluton, you may be overthinking it. How could I have any news about that kind of thing? Now I just want to research the sea train and atone for my sins." Lin Chen felt a little big-headed after hearing Tom's words. Crocodile stood aside and said unceremoniously, "Stop pretending. Of course you have information about Pluton, otherwise the world government would have executed you long ago. Are they still waiting for you to develop some kind of sea train?" Tom was instantly angry when he heard Crocodile's words. "You can say that I am a criminal, a sinner. But you can't talk about the sea train plan. It is related to the future destiny of the water city. Please go back. You are not welcome here." Lin Chen stopped Crocodile who wanted to continue talking and apologized quickly. "Sorry, Mr. Tom," Crocodile said it unintentionally. "We will visit you another day." After leading everyone out of the room, Crocodile was a little dissatisfied. "Madara, knowing that that guy has information about Pluton, which is what you told me, why not just snatch him away? That's Pluton." Lin Chen shook his head and signaled Crocodile not to get excited. "As long as he is here, the news about Pluton will not escape. It is better not to make Mr. Tom unhappy now. Don't forget that the world government is also paying attention to him. I am going to hang a long line and see the reaction of the world government first. The last time we attacked CP9 and visited Tom was a signal, let's see how they react first." Hearing this, Crocodile didn't say anything more. After all, it was something he thought about deeply, so it was understandable that he was anxious now. Several people returned to the ship, only to find that many people were running towards higher ground at the port. Even a few people on the ship felt a vibration. What happened? The boat is rocking. Lin Chen frowned and felt it, and found that this was not a man-made trace. Several people flew high into the sky, and white waves rose on the sea in the distance, but they seemed to be rising higher and higher. "It's a tsunami." The well-informed Crocodile spoke up. Seeing this, Lin Chen didn't dare to be careless and called a few people to leave. Crocodile gathered sand in the air and took several people to fly to the water capital immediately. Lin Chen did not forget Tom and directed Crocodile to arrive in front of Tom's house. At this time, a man with blue hair was running towards the street carrying Tom on his back, and was running to higher ground with everyone. Seeing this, Lin Chen greeted Crocodile, and the others lowered their flight altitude. Under the surprised eyes of the blue-haired young man, Vice Admiral and the two brought Crocodile's sand. Tom was a little embarrassed to see this. Thank you for your help. My words were too strong earlier. Lin Chen waved his hand to indicate not to take it to heart. Don't take it to heart, Mr. Tom. I'm very curious about what's going on. How could there be such a big tsunami suddenly in the Water City? There was a dim look in Tom's eyes. Well, the Water City welcomes the water gods every year, which brings a lot of casualties to the Water City every year. At the same time, the surrounding sea level will rise significantly, and the trade between the islands will also be hit. That's why I thought about building a sea train to strengthen the connection between islands. Several people were in awe after hearing Tom's words. Such people are very rare nowadays. Looking at the tsunami coming towards him in the distance, Lin Chen chuckled. Mr. Tom, if I can stop the tsunami this time, would you seriously consider joining our organization? Our strength is also very strong. You don't have to be afraid of world government. We just want to get news about Pluton, and we promise not to if you will use him to do bad things. Instead of telling the world government, why don't you give it to us? Looking at Tom, Lin Chen flew into the air and flew far away from the water capital without waiting for his answer. Tom looked at Lin Chen's back and said nothing. If it was true as Lin Chen said, then maybe telling him about Pluton's news wouldn't be a bad thing. It depends on whether he can stop a tsunami of this magnitude this time. If he can stop it, then he will have a power no less than that of the world government. Looking at the tsunami approaching in the distance, Lin Chen could already feel the fishy, salty breath coming from his face. Putting his hands together, black lines appeared on Lin Chen's face. Sage art. Wood style. True several thousand hands. With this full-force explosion, the true form of true several thousand hands was also inspired by Lin Chen, and a 100-meter-tall Guanyin statue appeared around the water city. In the surprised eyes of Tom and others, Lin Chen's true several thousand hands blocked this tsunami. Chapter 33 Pluton Drawings. Seeing the surrounding tsunami crashing into his giant Guanyin statue, Lin Chen did not forget about other directions. Countless giant trees rose up, and under Lin Chen's skillful control, the giant trees rose up in rows, intercepting the seawater around the water city. Everyone in the city stared blankly at the scene in front of them, and the giant trees that covered the sky gave them a shocking feeling. Then what kind of power can do it? Divine power. The gods have arrived. Even the crocodile people who were familiar with Lin Chen were a little surprised. This scene had subverted their understanding. Tom stared blankly at the man on the giant Guanyin statue, feeling an indescribable feeling in his heart. Roger had also given him this feeling. The sea water hit the giant tree summoned by Lin Chen hard, but it did not move at all. As time went by, the tsunami slowly subsided. Lin Chen looked back, and everyone behind him was looking at him blankly. Seeing their own power for the first time, Monet, Sugar, Rosinante, and Luo all opened their mouths and were speechless. That person who usually laughs and laughs on the boat actually has such a powerful force. Monet covered his mouth and his eyes were full of stars. Brother Madara is so powerful. Crocodile also came out of the initial shock. It was not that he had never seen Lin Chen's move in previous battles, but after watching it up close, he realized how big the gap between him and himself was. Seeing Lin Chen standing alone in front of everyone blocking the tsunami, Crocodile shook his head and chuckled involuntarily. This guy. Rosinante looked at Lin Chen's figure in silence, and was slightly touched in her heart. Maybe he was not the bad guy he thought. Lin Chen found that after the tsunami ended, he also dispersed his wood style, and his whole body turned into a stream of light and returned to the sand of Crocodile. As soon as the few people landed on the ground, there was a noise in the distance, and then a group of CP9s came out. The leader arrogantly scolded everyone. What are you doing? Where are you going with Tom? Don't you know he is a criminal being detained by the world government? A deputy on the side seemed to recognize Lin Chen and the others, and quietly whispered a few words into the leader's ear. After hearing the deputy's words, a few drops of cold sweat broke out on Spandam's forehead. This is the Daybreak organization that wiped out all members of the CP9 organization in the underground world a few months ago. Why didn't I recognize it? My father had just taken over the position, but I was still too careless. After coming back to his senses, Spandam immediately changed his expression and looked at Lin Chen and others with a charming smile. Although Li Xiao was temporarily listed as an enemy by the world government, it was obvious that his own life was at stake now and he could not care about anything else. I'm really sorry. I didn't recognize it as the recently famous Daybreak organization. Feeling the traces of mocking glances from his subordinates behind him, Spandam held back his anger in his heart. He slowly straightened up again, looked at Lin Chen and asked cautiously. I wonder what the members of the Dawn organization are doing here. They are so close to Mr. Tom, so we have to be careful. After hearing Spandam's nonsense, Lin Chen was too lazy to talk to him and just found an excuse to fool him. We are very interested in Mr. Tom's sea train and came here to visit. What? Do you have any opinions? As he spoke, Lin Chen's eyes flashed red, which put great pressure on Spandam. Looking at Lin Chen's appearance, Spandam waved his hands quickly. No objection. No objection. Seeing this, Lin Chen refuted unceremoniously. If you don't have any objections, get out of here. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Spandam left with the rest of CP9 dejectedly, ready to report the incident here to the higher-ups. Seeing Lin Chen scolding everyone who walked away from CP9, the usually arrogant CP9 didn't even dare to fart in front of himself and his master. The blue-haired young man beside him was very excited. Master, who are they? Tom smiled and touched the blue-haired young man's head. Fram, don't yell, these are members of the Dawn organization. As he spoke, he looked at Lin Chen and the others apologetically, and then said, Thank you for saving the Water City just now, please come to my home as a guest. Lin Chen was not polite and brought a few people to Tom's house. When he came here again, Tom's attitude had changed a lot. Not only did he take great care of Lin Chen and the others, he also asked Frame to go out and buy various food and drinks to entertain them. Knowing that Tom's family was living in poverty, Lin Chen also winked at Crocodile. Crocodile understood immediately and turned around to ask Enel to go shopping with Frame. Before leaving, he also gave Enel a large amount of banknotes and gave them to Enel and Frame. Frame was stunned. Take this money and go out to buy more delicious food and drink. You are not allowed to come back until you spend it all. After receiving the order, the two people nodded like chickens pecking at rice, and then walked out the door together, arm in arm. After seeing both of them leaving, Tom looked at Lin Chen and Crocodile with gradually serious expressions. He looked at Monet, Rocinante and others behind him, and Lin Chen also knew what he meant. Don't worry, these are all members of our Daybreak organization and they are all worthy of trust. Hearing this, Tom also breathed a sigh of relief and said with a somewhat solemn tone. To be honest, I do have news about Pluton here, and it's also Pluton's drawings. Hearing Tom's words, Crocodile breathed heavily, and his neck became thick and red. Where? Tom glanced at Crocodile and said calmly. Right here with me. Hearing this, Crocodile couldn't help but tremble. Lin Chen frowned and glanced at Crocodile, then patted Crocodile on the shoulder. Lao Sha, you're such a big man. Be more steady. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Crocodile calmed down a lot and was not as excited as before. He lit a cigarette, but after looking at the Monet Sugar and Luo in the room, Crocodile put out the cigarette in his hand. Then his face showed a hint of respect. Mr. Tom, can I see the Pluton drawings? After hearing Crocodile's words, Tom was silent for a while, looked at Lin Chen and then at Crocodile, and finally sighed. That's all. I don't know whether it is a blessing or a curse to have this item in my hands. Instead of leaving it in the hands of the world government, I might as well leave it to you. I am old and can no longer stand this thing. I just hope you won't use it to do bad things in the future. After hearing Tom's words, Lin Chen and others breathed a little quickly. When they saw Tom taking out Pluton's drawings, everyone's breath froze and they carefully looked at the drawings in Tom's hand. Chapter 34 Building New Ships. After reading the drawings, several people were no longer as excited as before. Although they saw Pluton's drawings and knew its shape and production materials, according to Tom, it is currently completely impossible to make. Everyone, I'm sorry, these materials are very rare, and my personal ability is not enough to make him. I have kept him for so many years just because I don't want the world government to discover him. Maybe the world government has the materials to make Pluton ability, but I didn't want to hand over the drawings to them. Lin Chen nodded to express his understanding, turned to look at Crocodile and comforted him. It doesn't matter, Laosha. Without Pluton, we still have Poseidon and Uranus. Besides, with your current strength, you are not far from the admiral level. There is no need to be so worried. Crocodile sighed. Madara, I'm not as fragile as you think. It's just that I'm not willing to let all my hard work go to waste over the years. Lin Chen touched his head and said awkwardly as if he thought of something. I seem to remember that there are clues about Pluton recorded in historical texts. It seems to be in Alabasta. I thought that Crocodile was there looking for clues about Pluton at the beginning, but he took him away again, vowing that he could find Pluton, but now it is obviously not the case. Crocodile waved his hand to show that he didn't care. It's okay. I don't care about these external things so much anymore. Only my own strength is the last word. Seeing this, Tom also smiled calmly and handed the Pluton drawing in his hand to Lin Chen. I'll leave this drawing to you, and I won't get involved in your affairs. Now I just want to spend the rest of my life researching the sea train. Lin Chen. Mr. Tom. Okay, I won't keep you here any longer. As for your organization, I'm really sorry, I don't have such lofty ambitions. Seeing Tom being so determined, Lin Chen and the others stopped inviting him. After thinking about it, Lin Chen said. Then can you ask Mr. Tom to help us with one last thing? Tom looked at Lin Chen with doubts on his face. Lin Chen said slowly. I would like to ask you to make the ship that Roger and his friends used to build again. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Tom's eyes showed a look of reminiscence, and he answered without hesitation. As long as you prepare the materials, I will recruit people to help you build it. Hearing that Tom agreed to his request, Lin Chen smiled and turned to look at Crocodile. Lao Sha, I leave it to you. Crocodile held his forehead and sighed. I know. It's really troublesome, but thanks to the last battle, Dawn has established its position in the underground world, otherwise it would be really difficult to get those materials. The Roger Pirate's Orson Jackson is made from the treasure tree atom. This fact is known to the whole world, and the price of this tree on the black market has always been high, but this is not the case for Crocodile. So hard to get. The few people went out and started to act separately. Crocodile went to find news about Baoshu Atom, while Lin Chen took a few people back to the ship. Looking at the members on his ship, children accounted for almost half of them. Lin Chen frowned. When did the Daybreak organization become an organization for taking care of children? Now 15-year-old Monet, 5-year-old Sugar, and 11-year-old Luo. Although these 3 children are usually quite obedient, it is not a good idea to spend such a long time on the boat. Lin Chen hopes that if you can spend your childhood on land, at least you can have a wider range of activities. However, this matter has to wait until his new ship is ready before making any plans. It is also a good plan to take a temporary rest in the water capital now. After a while, Enel returned to the boat, and with him was the blue-haired young man Fram. He was a child adopted by Tom. Now he is learning shipbuilding skills with Tom. He is a very good young man. Mr. Madara, these are the daily necessities that Master Tom asked me to deliver to you. Let's come over for dinner tonight. Lin Chen nodded in response to Frame. Frame didn't stay long. He wanted to help Tom complete his sea train plan. In the afternoon, Lin Chen did not train a few more people. He gave them a rare afternoon off. Most of them chose to go to the water city for a good walk, and Lin Chen was also happy to have some leisure time. In the evening, everyone went to Tom's house for a meal. At the dinner table, Crocodile also said that the treasure tree atom had been found and was on the way to be transported. This also made Lin Chen look at him with admiration. Come on, Lao Sha, drink. Do it. Thank you for your help to Dawn for so long. At the same time, here is a blessing to the new arrivals. Monet, Rosinante, Luo. From now on, everyone will be partners. Little Sugar on the side cried anxiously. Where's me? Where's me? Lin Chen touched Sutang's little head. Ha ha ha, there's also Sugar. Taking advantage of the slightest hint of alcohol, Monet looked at Lin Chen with a slightly red face. Brother Madara, what do you look like under the mask? Can't you show it to everyone? After hearing Monet's words, the atmosphere in the room was slightly frozen. Everyone looked at each other, continued laughing and drinking, and moved the topic elsewhere. Monet quickly forgot about it and continued to eat and drink. Under the mask, Lin Chen's eyes flashed with uncertainty, but he still did not take off the mask. Early the next morning, Crocodile and Tom went to see the atom tree that was about to be shipped and prepare to build a new ship. Lin Chen took Enel and left here, leaving only Rosinante, Monet, Sugar, and Luo on the boat. Now Lin Chen had no time to take care of them, but just asked Rosinante to take care of a few people. Crocodile brought back a piece of news from the underground world this morning. Kizaru was fighting the Sun Pirates on an island. With a different thought, Lin Chen planned to take Enel to see if the plan in his heart could be realized. Thanks to both of them being able to fly, they arrived at the island Crocodile was talking about in half a day. Looking from a distance, several marine warships were parked around the island without movement, and explosions occurred from time to time in the center of the island. Seeing this, Lin Chen rushed towards the center of the island with Enel, and at the same time, a yellow light flew out from the island. Lin Chen took Enel and passed by Kizaru. Seeing Lin Chen and Enel appear here, Kizaru's chrysanthemum-like face became even more wrinkled. Yeah, it looks like a great guy is here. Glancing at Kizaru, the 3 of them were facing each other in the air. Chapter 35 Enel's Kizaru. Looking at Lin Chen and Enel in front of him, Kizaru did not dare to be careless. Garp, Zephyr and Akainu were very wary of this guy after he came back. It is known that he has a wide range of tree moves and can fight against the 3 of them without falling behind. I wonder who else in the world can fight against these 3 people at the same time without falling behind, and from the mouths of Garp and Zephyr, I learned that this guy's physical skills and Hoki's use are also amazing. What's more, there is also a Logia Thunder Fruit Esper, the god of thunder Enel. Thinking of this, Kizaru's face became even more wretched, and he raised his hands in a gesture of surrender towards the 2 of them. Oh, yeah, it turns out it's Madara, the leader of the Dawn organization, and Enel, the god of thunder. It's really scary. Lin Chen looked at Kizaru with interest and glanced below him. Tiger and the Sun Pirates stood below and looked at the 3 people in the air. Seeing that none of them had any serious injuries, the curiosity in Lin Chen's eyes became even more serious. Logically speaking, Kizaru has already taken action, and it is not easy to deal with these people. This matter must have happened not only for a month, but for half a month. Why haven't the 2 parties finished fighting for half a month? Kizaru looked at Lin Chen and couldn't express the pain in his heart. The job he originally took was not a good job. Not only did he have to obey Sengoku's orders and requirements, but he also had to consider the world government. I heard that they were interested in improving the relationship with the fish. The relationship between Men Island and how to deal with the Sun Pirates is also a headache. Moreover, the Sun Pirates are somewhat related to the former Lin Chen. It doesn't matter whether he is heavy-handed or not. After thinking about the dead salary I get every month, I might as well just sit here and wait for Sengoku to negotiate with the world government before making a decision. Therefore, the marine warships just surrounded the Sun Pirates, and he went up to fight with them every day when he had nothing to do. Unexpectedly, he attracted the behemoth Dawn, which Kizaru did not expect. Seeing that Kizaru still looked the same, even oilier than before, Lin Chen smiled softly, but he hadn't seen Kizaru for more than a year. Say hello to Enel next to you. Enel, come on. Go and see how big the gap is between you and him. Don't be afraid, I'll take care of you. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Kizaru's old face wrinkled like a chrysanthemum. Aiya, I didn't mess with you, Thor Enel, how scary. Enel didn't care what Kizaru said, he turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed forward immediately. 2 thunder spears emerged from his hands and stabbed straight towards Kizaru. How terrible. He said it was scary, but Kizaru's figure didn't slow down much. Now that Enel had already attacked, Kizaru was not a vegetarian. The whole person turned into a yellow light and appeared behind Enel instantly. Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Enel looked back desperately, and then there was a sharp pain in his back. At the critical moment, Enel's whole body turned into lightning and disappeared instantly. Kizaru touched his chin helplessly. We have met our opponent. Thunder Fruit is really troublesome. Enel looked at Kizaru, who was still there with lingering fear, and heard Lin Chen's voice in the distance. He is Kizaru, one of the 3 marine admirals, a user with sparkling fruit ability. His current speed is much faster than yours, so you have to be careful. Enel's eyes became solemn when he heard Lin Chen's voice. Although Lin Chen didn't say it clearly now, Enel also knew that this was his future opponent. Thunderbird. Brontosaurus. 2 thunder beasts on the left and right rushed towards Kizaru, but he easily dodged them. What a terrifying move. It would be bad if you get hit by it. Touching his chin, Kizaru appeared behind Enel in an instant, with a long sword appearing in his hand. Tian Kong Yun sword. Carrying armament Haki, he slashed his sword behind Enel, and the speed of this blow was much faster. Enel observation Haki fully stretched out and twisted around to avoid the blow. Then he released a more powerful move. Thousands of thunders. Enel also knows that it is difficult for a single move to hit Kizaru, so he chooses such a wide-range move to lock Kizaru's back. Countless thunder and lightning struck Kizaru in the sky, even though Kizaru had sparkling fruit and was as fast as light. But don't forget that thunder and lightning are also light, and their speed is no less than that of Kizaru. What's more, these thunder and lightning are tightly locked on Kizaru under the control of Enel. In Lin Chen's sight, Kizaru turned into a ray of yellow light and kept dodging the thunder and lightning falling in the sky. He seemed to be running away in a hurry, but in fact he was not injured at all. Finally, after Enel's move was completed, Kizaru appeared and wiped the corner of his clothes. Kizaru showed a scared look. What a terrifying move, worthy of Enel, the god of thunder. Ignoring Kizaru's words, Enel was under tremendous pressure at this time. His multiple attacks only hit the corner of Kizaru's clothes, which made him feel powerless. Looking at Lin Chen on the side, white light flashed on Kizaru's sunglasses, and his whole body instantly jumped into the air. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. The 8-foot Magatama was released with a wide range, attacking Lin Chen and Enel indiscriminately, as well as the Sun Pirates on the ground. Enel dodged awkwardly under this move, even though his observation Haki was very powerful and extremely fast. But Kizaru has used this move very skillfully. The countless light bullets are not only fast, but also extremely dense, making it difficult to dodge. Wood style. Wood ingot wall. Seeing the light bullet hitting the wall of the wooden ingot and hitting it deeper and deeper, Lin Chen simply tested the power of this move. Speed as weight. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Enel, who was dodging on the other side, was caught off guard and was kicked in the waist by this move, causing him to fly away while vomiting blood. Tian Kong Yun sword. Just as Kizaru was about to continue chasing, he heard a faint sound coming from behind him. Dust escape. Original realm stripping technique. A beam of light instantly penetrated Kizaru's body. Looking at Kizaru motionless in the air, Lin Chen was a little confused. How could he hit it like this? Looking at the big hole in his chest, Kizaru turned around and looked at Lin Chen, his expression full of fear. What a terrifying move. Are you trying to kill me? The big hole in his chest slowly closed, and Kizaru returned to his original state in an instant. If he hadn't relied on observation Haki to elementalize in advance to disperse the area that was about to be hit, he would have really suffered this blow. The parts of the body that were just in contact with that move already felt a strange feeling. However, Lin Chen was also a little curious about what would happen if he really hit Kizaru. The original realm stripping technique could break down matter into atomic states. As a user with the sparkling fruit ability, Kizaru is already in the photon state after becoming an element. So what magical effect will be produced when the two collide? Chapter 36 A Sudden Enlightenment. Advertise here. Enel, come back. Lin Chen greeted Enel in the distance, but Kizaru did not make any move to stop him. The 3 of them once again formed a confrontation. Looking at Kizaru, Lin Chen said, "You should stop interfering in the affairs of the Sun Pirates. The water here is very deep and you cannot control it. Kizaru's sunglasses were shining with light, making it difficult to see his face. Seeing Kizaru's silence, Lin Chen was not anxious and silently waited for Kizaru's reply. After a long time, Kizaru's face bloomed again with a chrysanthemum-like smile. This is really a distressing thing, but since you have intervened, it will be easier for me to explain it when I get back. After saying that, Kizaru gave Lin Chen a meaningful look, and then Kizaru turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the air. Before leaving, he looked at Lin Chen and then at Enel. He believed that these two people and the Dawn organization behind them would definitely become the #1 enemy of Marine and even the world government in the future. But what does this have to do with him? Since Lin Chen's death, his life has returned to the dullness before. He just tries his best to do his own thing. As for other things, whether it is Marine or world government, I don't even bother to pay too much attention to it. As Kizaru left, the surrounding warships also retreated as if they had received some order. Looking at Enel holding his waist, Lin Chen was a little worried. Are you okay? Enel shook his head. My waist was kicked, but I should be fine after a while of rest. Lin Chen sighed inwardly. The gap between Enel and Kizaru was still too big. It was impossible to catch up with Kizaru in a short time. This made Lin Chen couldn't help but want to slow down his plan. It might take some time for a few people to grow. After bringing Enel to the Sun Pirates below, Lin Chen felt a little emotional when he looked at Tiger, whom he hadn't seen for more than a year. Tiger has indeed changed a lot in the past year, and his weathered face makes people wonder about his experiences. Tiger looked at the two people in front of him and knew that these were the recently famous leader of the Dawn organization and the God of Thunder, Enel. Knowing that these two people were coming, Kizaru retreated, and Tiger cupped his hands to express his gratitude. Thank you Madara-dono and Enel for saving us this time. If there is any need for our Sun Pirates in the future, please let us know and we will do our best. Touching his chin, Lin Chen really had something for them to do. Tiger is from the Fishmen Island. That's right. After thinking about it, Lin Chen said, in that case, I won't be polite. Now take the Sun Pirates back to the Fishmen Island and don't come out again. Although I know that you are running around to liberate the slaves, but this also made the world government very dissatisfied, so now go back to the Fishmen Island immediately. Hearing Lin Chen's words, Tiger looked embarrassed. He just didn't want to implicate the Fishmen Island, so he ran out to form a pirate group. Now that he was asked to go back, wouldn't it implicate the Fishmen Island? What's more, Otahime has been running for the coexistence of fishmen and humans. If the relationship between the Fishmen Island and the world government deteriorates because of her return, Otahime will definitely be very painful. Thinking of this, Tiger looked apologetic. I'm so sorry, Madara-sama, I cannot agree to this matter. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows when he heard Tiger's words and asked, do you have any difficulties? Tiger nodded and said, because the relationship between the Fishmen Island and the world government has always been in a delicate balance. If I go back again, the world government will definitely be angry with the Fishmen Island. At that time, the Fishmen's survival range will be limited. Even less. Hearing Tiger's answer, Lin Chen nodded, but he had known this for a long time. If the Fishmen Island and world government were to restore their original relationship, then his plan would be called a failure. He just wants to provoke a conflict between the Fishmen Island and the world government. Moreover, the Fishmen Island, as the throat to enter the new world, has an extremely significant strategic position. If Daybreak can master the Fishmen Island, it will be a heavy blow to both the world government and the pirates. Of course, it is necessary to control all aspects of force, so as to deter the world government. Tens of thousands of meters under the sea, the world government really has to consider whether it has the strength to seize the Fishmen Island by force. Thinking of this, Lin Chen looked at Tiger in front of him and cleared his throat. Tutor Taihu came online again. Tiger, I know you the Fishmen Island have always wanted to coexist with humans, but have you ever thought about whether you are doing it to coexist peacefully with humans, or just to coexist peacefully with the world government? Tiger looked confused after hearing Lin Chen's words. As long as the Fishmen Island joins the world government, doesn't the easing of relations between the two mean that fishmen and humans coexist? After all, judging from the current situation, there is no doubt that world government can represent all human beings. Seeing Tiger's confused look, Lin Chen spoke seriously. Although the Fishmen Island has joined the world government, from that day on, fishmen and mermaids have become slaves that humans trade wantonly, including small humans, fur people, etc. As long as they are not of the human race, they will always, when you see them at the auction, you have to ask yourself, are you really equal? The efforts of you the Fishmen Island and Otahime are only a superficial equality, but slaves will never be eliminated. The dark side of human beings is beyond your imagination. Think about the scenes you saw in Mariejois a year ago. Humans can even capture people of their own race and use them as slaves. Do you think those of your non-human race can survive? The Fishmen Island has an absolute geographical advantage, and its strategic location is extremely important. Even if you remain closed-minded, world government and marine will not be able to do anything to you. In this case, why would you blindly want to join world government? Even if you join, do you think those people will really treat you as the same kind? There is no absolute fairness in today's world. Fairness, do you really want to trust the false lies of the world government? Think of the celestial dragons behind them. The worms of the world are not worthy of trust. If you don't break out in silence, just be silent. Destroy. The future of the Fishman Island should be in your own hands, instead of placing your hope in the world government. The current world government is already rotten. Wouldn't you rather bet the future of the Fishman Island on a rotten regime than build a new world with your own hands? Lin Che's words were like rolling thunder, leaving Tiger stunned. If you don't break out in silence, you will perish in silence. As Tiger read this sentence, his eyes suddenly became clear. There may indeed be benevolent people among humans who want to coexist peacefully with non-human races like ours, but that is definitely not the world government that has always supported the slave trade. Chapter 37 Farewell. Advertise here. Looking at the masked Dawn leader Madara in front of him, a figure gradually appeared in Tiger's heart. The once dazzling marine genius, Lin Chen, his fairness and justice have always been filled in Tiger's heart. Among all the humans Tiger met, Lin Chen really treated himself as equal as other humans, and it was from him that he really understood what true fairness was. However, even such a person died without knowing why. In this case, do I really still want to believe in the so-called world government? All kinds of questions flashed through Tiger's mind, and he became more and more entangled. Seeing the troubled look on Tiger's face, Lin Chen also knew that it was time for a strong dose. Looking into Tiger's eyes, the Sharingan in Lin Chen's eyes slowly turned. Tiger, think about how you were tortured by the celestial dragons. Think about the hell on earth you saw in Mariejois. The world government is just a toy in the hands of the celestial dragons. Do you want to believe them? Even if you go to free the slaves again. But the killing and selling will never stop in this world. The world needs a big change. If we don't solve the problem at its root, all efforts will be in vain. All kinds of past events flashed through Tiger's mind, and strong hatred burst out of his eyes. Seeing the hatred in Tiger's eyes, Lin Chen also knew that his goal had been achieved. Hatred can make a person lose his mind the most. Only by stimulating Tiger's hatred, when he wants revenge but has no power, can he slowly manipulate him to complete his plan. Tiger, tell me, do you want revenge? Hearing this, Tiger's eyes burst out with intense hatred, and he tore off his clothes, revealing the dense scars on his upper body, and the slave mark on his back made people shudder. Gritting his teeth, Tiger spelled out a sentence word by word. How can I get revenge? Lin Chen took a deep breath, and the words in his mouth rang in Tiger's ears like a devil's whisper. Go back to the Fishman Island. Change Odahime's mind and inspire her hatred of the world government. Both the celestial dragons and the world government need to be eradicated. Hearing Lin Chen's rebellious remarks, Tiger didn't find it strange. Instead, he felt that it was quite right. He should take revenge on the celestial dragons. After patting Tiger on the shoulder, Lin Chen whispered in his ear. Go back quickly, don't be afraid, tell Odahime that we will protect you at dawn, the Fishman Island. True peaceful coexistence is achieved through strength. Blindly asking for peace will only make those demonic mobs more unscrupulous. After saying these words, Lin Chen's eyes under the mask returned to normal, and Tiger was still immersed in hatred, but it was much lighter than before. Okay, everything will follow Madara-sama's instructions. After that, Tiger came to the port with other fishmen who were also bewitched by Lin Chen, and prepared to return to the Fishman Island to persuade Odahime to change his mind. Arriving at the port, Lin Chen and Enel watched the Sun Pirates leave. When leaving, Tiger looked at Lin Chen's figure and said, Master Madara, when can we meet again and take revenge on the world government? Lin Chen waved his hand. Soon, soon. Seeing the Sun Pirates getting further and further away, Lin Chen looked at the distant sky thoughtfully. Will this matter proceed in the direction you want? Lin Chen didn't know that he had already done what he could. If he really couldn't change the position of the Fishman Island, then he would have to use force to occupy the Fishman Island. After all, the location there is very important, and it is related to the most ambitious plan in Lin Chen's heart. Oh, I hope everything goes well. He turned to look at Enel, who was holding his waist and looking contorted. Frowning his brows, Lin Chen said, What's the matter with you? You are kicked in the waist and it hurts so much. You must have kidney deficiency. Hearing this, Enel's face looked as if he had eaten shit. He stretched out his hand to pinch Lin Chen's waist, and brought a trace of electricity along the way. Feeling this unexpected blow, Lin Chen's body did not tremble at all. My kidneys are not weak, so of course I won't feel anything. You have to work on your waist more in the future, little Enel. As he said this, Lin Chen's face under the mask had turned the color of pig liver, but Enel didn't notice it because he was wearing the mask. This was Lin Chen's last dignity as a man, and he could not give in even a step. This old boy has followed Lao Sha's bad example and used some dirty tricks. Wait until I get back to see how I can publicize your kidney deficiency everywhere. With unknown thoughts in his heart, the naive Enel thought that Lin Chen didn't care about him, and the two of them flew into the air towards the water capital. However, many days later, Enel never figured out who had reported the news about his kidney deficiency. Gradually, everyone knew about it, and they always looked at his waist from time to time. Occasionally, Franum would bring him some small blue pills, telling him that they were great for treating kidney deficiency and were in high demand on the black market. Slowly, time passed like this for several months, and the new ship was built with Tom's help. Everyone was very happy to see the newly built ship. The new Daybreak was much more beautiful than the one previously created by Lin Chen using wood style, and its functionality and comfort had also been improved by more than one level. Several people worked separately in the Water City to purchase some supplies. Of course, this was all paid for by Lao Sha. Lin Chen came to Tom's residence, and the other people from Daybreak were also here. After staying here for so long, it was time for them to start again. Lin Chen was also a little embarrassed when he saw that Tom in front of him had become a little darker due to the work he had done in the past few months. Mr. Tom, thank you so much. If you need to use our Daybreak in the future, we can do everything from killing celestial dragons and 5 elders to finding lost kittens and puppies. When he heard Lin Chen's somewhat shocking words, Tom covered his chest. Okay, stop teasing me. I think it's still early for you to overturn the world at dawn. I don't know if I can see you causing trouble in the world in my lifetime. I hope I can live until then. Ha 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 ha. Everyone was stunned when they heard Tom's words, and then they all laughed. After bidding farewell to Tom and Frame, Lin Chen and others also came to the boat and prepared to leave. Frame and Enel held each other tightly. Over the past few months, they had developed a deep friendship and had become good friends. Lin Chen waved as he watched Tom and Frame bidding farewell to him at the port. We will come back again in the future. Mr. Tom, don't forget to tell us when the sea train is built, we must try it. Tom grinned. These people had brought him a lot of happiness in the past few months, and he was a little reluctant to part with them. Wiping a few tears from his eyes, Tom pretended to be angry. Okay, I wasted a few months of my time, old man, and the sea train project has been delayed. Fram, let's go. Looking at the backs of Tom and Frame, Lin Chen smiled faintly and waved his hand. Lao Sha. Next location, Sabaody Archipelago. Hearing this, Crocodile turned around, and the group set out on their journey again. Rocinante in the corner looked at Lin Chen's back thoughtfully. Is it an idea to subvert the world? I don't know if it is true or false. I have to find an opportunity to report it to Marshal Sengoku. Chapter 38 Return of Sabaody Archipelago. On the way to Sabaody Archipelago, Crocodile looked at Lin Chen with some confusion and asked. What are we doing there? Lin Chen turned his head and looked at Sutang, who was having fun riding a wooden horse he made behind him, as well as Monet and Luo, who were swinging on the swings, and said. What do you think we can do with a bunch of kids? Looking at the group of children playing happily behind him, Crocodile also sighed. As if thinking of something, Lin Chen asked again. In that battle at the auction half a year ago, do you think you and Akainu are far apart? Crocodile's expression was a little solemn, and he shook his head after thinking carefully. I feel that my strength has improved a lot after your training, but when facing Akainu, I am under a lot of pressure. His lava fruit is somewhat restrained by my sand fruit. My sand cannot withstand the high temperature of the magma and is easily melted. The gap between him and me is still very obvious. Lin Chen nodded when he heard Crocodile's words. There was currently nothing he could do about this disparity in fruit, he could only see who developed it better. Lin Chen said while looking at Enel behind the ship who was transmitting power to the power unit. I took Enel to find Kizaru a few months ago, and he had a brief fight with Kizaru. Crocodile looked at Lin Chen and asked. How about it? Lin Chen shook his head and said. The difference in strength is too far. If it were a life and death fight, Enel would not be able to last 5 minutes in Kizaru's hands. Crocodile thought for a moment and said, if I fight to the death with Akainu, I might not last 30 minutes. Lin Chen sighed. Admiral-level experts are indeed not that easy to cultivate, especially now that Crocodile has passed the optimal training age. It is very difficult to improve his strength. Enel is a bit better. If he trains hard the day after tomorrow, he still has a high probability of entering the Admiral level. Of course, the most promising one is Monet. Although Snow Fruit is at a disadvantage among several people, because he is still young, he has a lot of room for development. Time to eat. Rocinante's voice came from behind, and several people came to the living room to prepare for dinner. Since Rocinante joined, he has taken the initiative to take on the position of chef, and I have to say that the food he cooks is really delicious. This made Crocodile and Enel, who used to vomit after eating Lin Chen's seafood barbecue every day, feel extremely happy, and asked Lin Chen not to step into the kitchen again in the future. Seeing this, Lin Chen was still a little disappointed. He felt that there was still a lot of room for improvement in his cooking skills, but few of them were willing to be his experimental subjects anymore. After dinner, Lin Chen and Crocodile came to the deck to enjoy the sea breeze. Crocodile asked, so are you going to live temporarily in Sabaody Archipelago? It's under the noses of Marine and World Government, so it's probably not very safe. Lin Chen waved his hand and said, we have this plan, but don't worry. As long as we don't cause trouble, they won't come to us. Let's spend these few years peacefully. Lin Chen said as if thinking of something. Do you know Pluton Rayleigh? He lives on the Sabaody Archipelago. I'll see if there is a chance to invite him in. If it works, let him teach you. These children still need to grow up, and I also have many things to deal with. After glancing behind him, he found that Rocinante was not here. Lin Chen lowered his voice and said, I'm going to those joining countries to find out information. After all, Long and I have reached cooperation. If there is only one republic, it is not enough to be a force in our hands. Crocodile nodded, understanding now. His own strength is indeed very weak now. Even if Lin Chen has the strength to match the emperor level, he is still alone. Only when he and others catch up in strength can he challenge the world government and marine. At the same time, he was also deeply curious about Pluton Rayleigh, whom he was about to meet. He had heard many legends about him when he was young. After half a month of sailing, several people finally arrived at Sabaody Archipelago. This was Lin Chen's third time here. When Lin Chen came to Sabaody Archipelago again, he found that there had been earth-shaking changes here. As soon as they arrived at the port, they found many marines stationed here. The sharp-eyed marine spotted Lin Chen and his group and left immediately. After a while, a marine general wearing a Madara-dotted dog head had approached several people. Dalmatian looked at the reward order in his hand and confirmed that he had not admitted his mistake, and that he would not admit these people wrongly. He also participated in the battle half a year ago, but he did not grab the snow fruit from these people. Looking at the leader Lin Chen, he found that there were a few more unfamiliar faces behind him, and even a few children, Dalmatian said coldly. Come here to prohibit all illegal activities, including but not limited to destroying cities and massacring civilians. Although you have not committed any criminal acts so far, I do not want to fight you here. Even if I lose, I will fight to the last trace. Lin Chen chuckled. It seemed that a lot of things had happened in Marine over the years. Okay, Master Marine, we understand and we will definitely not cause trouble. There was a commotion in the distance. It's the big pirate with a bounty of 1.5 billion, Madara. Lin Chen looked at him with confusion. A pirate looked at him with a happy face, but he was also very confused in his heart. When did you become a pirate? He is clearly a terrorist, so how can he slander someone's innocence out of thin air? Master Madara, we have always admired you. Please let us join Daybreak. My bounty is 200 million. It should be enough to qualify. Dalmatian's face was ashen on the side. If it weren't for the damn new rules, he would have slapped the pirate to death. Compared with the previous Sabaody archipelago, many new rules have been added, which ensures law and order to a certain extent and allows civilians to live safer. But for these foreign pirates, they can't arrest them unless they cause trouble. Thinking of the time when he and Lin Chen went out to catch pirates, Dalmatian could still think of Lin Chen's words. Isn't it natural for Marine to catch pirates? Having said that, pirates are also part of the considerable income brought in the Sabaody archipelago, and they also provide a high-quality supply of slaves. The slave trade has always been a cake in the hands of the world government. At the same time, there are many celestial dragons who often come here to buy slaves. Naturally, Marine will not be allowed to destroy it. Chapter 39 Extra Income. Advertise here. Seeing the enthusiasm in the eyes of the pirate in front of him, Lin Chen smiled. You must be very capable if you can offer a reward of 200 million. The pirate raised his head proudly and said proudly. I slaughtered 8 towns before I was offered a bounty of 200 million. How about that? It's awesome. Lin Chen said with an inexplicable brilliance in his eyes. Then you must be very rich. To be honest, to join our Dawn, firstly, the bounty must be large enough, and secondly, you must pay a fee. As an admission fee, joining our Dawn will ensure that your future strength will be at least as good as Shichibukai's. Have you seen this crocodile? He would rather give up his position as Shichibukai and offer a large sum of treasure to beg to join me. His current strength is almost close to that of Admiral. I won't say more about what this means. Lin Chen's voice was deliberately raised a lot, which made many pirates around the port ready to move. Looking at the hesitant faces of the people around him, Lin Chen sneered. What are you still hesitating about? We finally came here at dawn. Now the entire underground world is basically decided by us. We can know the information about devil fruit and secret treasures we want as soon as possible. Join us, we are companion. This information will be shared. Hearing Lin Chen's words, the surrounding pirates with big bounties all looked happy. As for the pirate with a bounty of 200 million at the beginning, he had already ran back to the ship to carry the treasure. Young ones, take out everything you can, we must join Daybreak. Seeing this, the rest of the pirates no longer hesitated, and went back to take out their treasures and prepare to join Daybreak. Who knew if they would still accept people if it was too late? Dalmatian was unable to contain the anger in his heart at this time. Lin Chen spread his hands. Why, aren't we allowed to recruit people? We didn't do anything bad. With one sentence, Dalmatian's anger was blocked in his heart, and he could only stare at a few people fiercely. Don't let me find out about you. After a while, countless treasures were piled up in front of Lin Chen and others. Many pirates were very excited after hearing what Lin Chen said. These treasures originally came to Sabaody Archipelago to buy some items that can increase their strength, and some may buy a few good-looking slaves. But now that there is such an opportunity to join Daybreak, any smart person will choose to exchange these treasures for a chance to join them. After all, Daybreak is indeed very famous now, and some people have begun to compare them with the Pirate Emperor of New World, and concluded that Daybreak is as strong as them. Just ask who would give up such an opportunity. As for those who hesitate, they will only secretly ridicule in their hearts. They are all weak people who cannot seize the opportunity. Looking at the treasures piled up in front of him, and after confirming that no one else was joining him, Lin Chen nodded with satisfaction and asked Crocodile and the others to move the treasures one by one to the ship. Then Lin Chen said, "Line up the bounties one by one from high to low. Let me verify whether you have the strength. After all, our Dawn is not wanted by any Gyuki snake god." As soon as these words came out, the pirates with low bounties were dissatisfied. They had already handed over the treasure, but now they had to queue up for review according to the bounty, so their chances would definitely be much smaller. "No, in this case we won't join. Give us the treasure back." Lin Chen's expression changed after hearing this. Someone wants to steal our treasure. As soon as these words came out, Lin Chen heard Crocodile's voice before he was in a hurry. Sand-bound coffin. The pirate who just said he wanted them to return the treasure fell to the ground alone. The other pirates who wanted to speak shut their mouths and lined up one by one according to Lin Chen's wishes. Crocodile blew the sand off his hands and wanted to take my treasure. Go ahead and dream. It was already very difficult to dig out the treasure from that guy Madara. This time there was so much, and I was working so hard, so some of it would be left to me. It was impossible for him to just take it all. I don't know how much it was. What did he do with the money? Lin Chen looked a little displeased at the laziness of the pirate in front of him. Straighten it up for me. After several adjustments, they finally formed a standard straight line, with the rear of the team facing the sea. Lin Chen extended his thumb to the first pirate and squinted his eyes to observe the formation. The first pirate was the big pirate with a bounty of 200 million. The man thought he had succeeded, then he heard words that he didn't understand coming from Lin Chen's mouth. Dust escape. Original realm stripping technique. Seeing the white light coming from Lin Chen's hand, the pirate ranked first was speechless. What glass? Didn't I successfully join Daybreak? With the last trace of doubt, the pirate was instantly wiped out from the head down, and the pirates behind him didn't even see what happened. In an instant, the entire pirate team was directly wiped out by Lin Chen. The bloody scene was really shocking. Crocodile on the side covered Monet and Sugar's eyes, and Rocinante covered Luo's eyes. Enel was already squatting aside and vomiting. Why didn't anyone cover my eyes? Looking at the rows of heads in front of him, Lin Chen felt no emotion in his heart. He turned around and looked at Dalmatian, who was stunned, and asked with a smile. "Mr. Marine, if I remember correctly, these pirates all have bounties on their heads. I have kept the heads. Can you exchange the bounties for me?" Lin Chen's words woke up Dalmatian. Seeing the man in front of him killing so many people in an instant and still asking questions with a smile, Dalmatian felt that this guy was a pervert. Although he also thought that the killing was very good and in line with his wishes, it did not affect his judgment that the person in front of him was a pervert. "Okay. I understand. The bounty will be sent to you later. I also apologize for my reckless words just now. You did something I have always wanted to do." Hearing this, Lin Chen chuckled, feeling very happy with this extra income. After saying goodbye to Dalmatian, Lin Chen led a few people to look for the ship plating factory where Rayleigh was located. We have previously learned from the underground world that Rayleigh works as a coating worker in a ship plating factory. After a while, Lin Chen's sharp eyes saw a white-haired old man walking out of a casino carrying a bottle of wine. Looking at Rayleigh in the distance, Lin Chen chuckled. This guy seemed to be the same as he was a few years ago. Silver Rayleigh. Crocodile and the others heard the news and walked away, and a white-haired old man turned his back to them. Rayleigh was a little confused when she heard someone calling her full name. She turned around and looked at several guys wearing the same clothes looking at her. The leader was a man wearing a mask. I also recognized that several people were members of the Daybreak organization that had previously made a big fuss in the world and were now the kings of the underground world. Chapter 40. Learn with reason and move with emotion. Rayleigh looked at the people coming towards her, and she became more and more confused. She had been living in seclusion for so many years, and there was no reason why someone would come to find her. Although he thought so, Rayleigh still said, "I don't know why you guys from Daybreak came to me. I have gone into seclusion. If you came to invite me to join you, please come back." Few people expected Rayleigh to be so straightforward. Lin Chen said after hearing Rayleigh's words. "Mr. Rayleigh, having said that, how about we have a good talk? Maybe you will change your mind." After hearing this, Rayleigh sighed inwardly. Seeing more and more people watching on the street, Rayleigh shook his head. "In that case, please come with me. This is not the place to talk." After saying that, he took the lead to leave here. Lin Chen and the others looked at each other and followed without hesitation. Several people came to a rip-off bar called Shaki. Lin Chen pushed the door open and found many pirates loudly discussing what happened before. "You don't know, Madara wiped out countless pirates with just one finger. He also took all the treasures handed over by the pirates and kept them for himself. He even didn't let go of the bounty on the dead pirates. This is really scary. What kind of organization is their Dawn? Are they pirate hunters? I don't know. For now, we pirates should stay away from them. We might be killed one day in exchange for a reward. A sharp-eyed pirate seemed to have noticed something, pointing at the door of the tavern and trembling. Them. They're coming. The pirates in the tavern all looked at the tavern and were speechless for a moment. The previously lively atmosphere suddenly solidified. Yeah, it seems that great guests have arrived. Rayleigh, how did you bring them back? It's really nerve-wracking. The person who spoke was a woman, the proprietress of this bar, Shaki. Rayleigh touched her head and said a little embarrassed. There's nothing we can do about it. This is the right place for us to talk. There's really nothing we can do about you, but you have to ensure that they won't kill people here. I've heard all the stories about the port before. Rayleigh looked at Shaki with some confusion. Seeing this, Shaki also recounted what Lin Chen and others had done at the port. After listening to Shaki's words, Rayleigh looked at Lin Chen and the others again, with a bit more solemnity and caution in his eyes. Seeing the appearance of Rayleigh and Shaki, Lin Chen stood up and said, "Don't worry, we are here to visit you, not to kill pirates." Turning to look at the pirates in the tavern, Lin Chen said lightly, "As for you." Before the words were finished, these pirates fled out of the tavern without looking back, for fear that they would be unable to leave if they were too slow. Looking at the empty tavern, Lin Chen was somewhat satisfied. Rayleigh also said solemnly, "You are satisfied with the current environment, right? What do you want to say?" Seeing this, Lin Chen said, "I hope Mr. Rayleigh can join our Dawn organization." Rayleigh shook her head after hearing Lin Chen's words. "I still answered as before. Now I have gone into seclusion and no longer want to care about the affairs of the world. Please come back, sir." Lin Chen was not disappointed when he heard Rayleigh's answer, it was all within his expectation. Thinking of this, Lin Chen continued. "Then I wonder if Mr. Rayleigh would like to have a detailed discussion with me alone." Rayleigh was a little silent after hearing Lin Chen's words. Knowing that Lin Chen and the others would not give up until they achieved their goal, Rayleigh sighed in his heart, "Let's see what this guy is thinking. In that case, please come." Rayleigh turned and walked towards the second floor, and Lin Chen followed. Arriving at a room on the second floor, Rayleigh said calmly, "Just say it here, they can't hear it." Lin Chen looked at Rayleigh and asked an unrelated question instead. "Mr. Rayleigh, does he know where Roger went after he disbanded the pirate group?" Rayleigh was a little stunned when she heard Lin Chen's question. "I don't know. Captain Roger left alone after the pirate group was disbanded. We don't know where he went. It is rumored that Captain Roger has a beloved wife and a child, but it seems that he has been killed by the world government." After hearing Rayleigh's answer, Lin Chen sighed in his heart. Although he didn't want to use his relationship, sometimes his identity as Roger's brother-in-law did have some value. "Mr. Rayleigh, to be honest, I am Roger's brother-in-law." Rayleigh was dumbfounded after hearing Lin Chen's words. "Brother-in-law, just wait a moment and let me sort out the relationship." After thinking for a moment, Rayleigh looked at Lin Chen in surprise and said, "Roger really found a woman to marry?" Lin Chen nodded. "Yes, he and my sister met at South Blue." After hearing Lin Chen's definite answer, Rayleigh was silent for a long time, looking at Lin Chen from time to time. "Your sister? How is she?" "Died." Rayleigh sighed. As expected, ordinary people who have a relationship with Roger will not end well, especially when he left without saying a word. The crew members did not know that he had a wife, otherwise. As if thinking of something, Rayleigh asked again. "Then, does Captain Roger really have a child?" Lin Chen looked at Rayleigh with uncertain eyes, and took a long time to respond. After hearing Lin Chen's answer, Rayleigh's heart beat faster. How is he doing now? Where is he?" Lin Chen smiled softly when he saw Rayleigh losing his composure. "Sorry, Mr. Rayleigh, I can't tell you this yet. Considering that you are my brother-in-law's deputy, I can only tell you that my nephew is alive and well. I can't tell you anything else." After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh's heart felt like a cat scratching her head, and she couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Looking at Rayleigh's appearance, Lin Chen rolled his eyes and continued. "Although I can't tell you, if you join us, then we will be partners who can trust each other." After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh's face was a little tangled. Seeing this, Lin Chen continued. "You don't have to worry about what we will do. Our Dawn organization has always abided by the law. Didn't you see that we just helped Marine kill those pirates who did all kinds of evil in the port? As for that child, if you join us, I will take you back to see him. After all, I have been out for so long, and there are actually no elders around him who can discipline him. Are you going to watch Roger's son go through a life without a child? A childhood with care from elders? Mr. Rayleigh, just think it's for Captain Roger's son. Do you really not care about his growth? If he becomes a pirate who commits many evil deeds in the future, my brother-in-law's soul in heaven will definitely be very sad." Chapter 41 Rayleigh joins. Advertise here. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh felt a little blocked in her heart, thinking of all the things she had experienced when she went to sea with Roger. Now that Roger has been dead for so long, the child has no father or mother, and the only uncle doesn't seem very reliable. The news of daybreak is spreading all over the world, but Rayleigh is still very worried about the child. Oh, I will join you, but you have to take me back to see that child. Seeing Rayleigh agreeing to him, Lin Chen was overjoyed and the corners of his mouth raised crazily. Lin Chen slapped Rayleigh on the shoulder and said with a smile. In this case, let's not shout so loudly. After all, you and my brother-in-law have been adventuring together for so many years, and you can be considered half of my elders. I will take you back to meet that brat in the future. That guy is very naughty now and is very difficult to discipline. I'm busy with Dawn, so I'll have to worry about you a lot in the future. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh frowned. Captain Roger's child must not grow crooked. It seems that he must educate the child well and not go on a crooked path. In fact, Lin Chen's last sentence was completely nonsense. He had also seen that under Perona's discipline, Ace was very afraid of this ant. But after all, Rayleigh is an old man in his 60s now, and he has no children. The second half of the sentence will naturally inspire this old guy's desire to discipline children. After all, he is Roger's child. Although Rayleigh didn't say it, in fact, he may have already been regarded as his own child in his heart. Even Garp can treat Ace as his own grandson, not to mention Rayleigh who has been with Roger for so long. It is estimated that Rayleigh has already thought about how to educate this child well. At this time, Rayleigh seemed to have thought of a little boy throwing himself into his arms and calling him grandpa affectionately. As for why he wasn't dad, Rayleigh felt that calling him grandpa was more appropriate at his age. Lin Chen was a little confused when he saw the corner of Rayleigh's mouth laughing involuntarily, but he still didn't ask what he was laughing at. Realizing that Lin Chen was staring at her in surprise, Rayleigh stopped smiling, cleared her throat and asked. Now that I have joined you, you can tell me what you did at dawn. After hearing that Rayleigh finally asked the key point, Lin Chen said with a serious face. Mr. Rayleigh, I don't know what your views on world government are. I remember that you and my brother-in-law arrived at the end of the Grand Line together. You also saw the blank 100 years of history. I want to know what your views on world government are. What are your views on celestial dragons? Rayleigh was a little silent after hearing Lin Chen's question. World government. Celestial dragons. Celestial dragons should not exist in today's world. Hearing Rayleigh's answer, Lin Chen chuckled and said. Yes, celestial dragons are the worms of this world. I am not interested in that 100 years of historical blanks. I just want to kill all the celestial dragons. Re-establish the order of this world. Rayleigh was shocked when he heard Lin Chen's words and looked at the young man in front of him again. What a crazy idea, but I seem to see the shadow of Roger in you. Hearing this, Lin Chen smiled disdainfully. Mr. Rayleigh, I'm not afraid of you blaming me for saying this. I don't think my brother-in-law is such a great person. Those words on the execution platform started the era of great pirates and made countless people crazy. The price behind this countless families are torn apart. Rayleigh hesitated after hearing Lin Chen's words. This was indeed Roger's responsibility, but knowing the truth, he couldn't help but defend. Roger just wanted to pass on this free will. We saw the blank 100 years of history and knew that we could not achieve that goal just relying on our strength. Moreover, Roger was already terminally ill at the time. In order to prevent this, his free will died, so he said those words in order to find one among the countless pirates who could inherit his will. But now, after hearing this, Rayleigh was a little silent, but looked at Lin Chen with burning eyes. Maybe not before, but not necessarily now. Lin Chen was stunned when he heard Rayleigh's words, clenched his fists but then unclenched them. Don't confuse me with him. He and I are not the same kind of people. What I want to do is to overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons and the world government, and personally end the era of great pirates he started. After listening to Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh stopped saying anything and just sighed inwardly. Roger, I don't know if what you did was right or not. Even if you are worthy of people like us, but this person in front of you, your wife, and your children, are you really worthy of them? The two returned to the first floor from the second floor. Lin Chen nodded when he saw Crocodile's questioning eyes. Seeing Lin Chen's appearance, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they had all heard of Rayleigh's name. They didn't expect that Lin Chen could really invite this god tier over. Then Lin Chen introduced the crocodile people to Rayleigh one by one. When he saw 3 children in the crowd, Rayleigh's mouth twitched slightly and his eyes looked at Lin Chen strangely again. This guy seems to be really unreliable. How did he think of bringing these children in? He won't even let his nephew go in the future. Thinking of this, Rayleigh became nervous again. No, I can't watch Roger's child being dragged over by this guy to do such a horrible thing. I have to find time to recognize that child. Then Rayleigh went to Shaki and asked him some questions about how to educate children, which made Shaki feel confused and his heart beat faster at the same time. Why did this old man suddenly ask about this again? Then he didn't want to talk to me. After achieving his goal, Lin Chen also felt reassured, and he had to wait slowly for the next days. Early the next morning, Lin Chen called several people to the boat for a meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to hope that Mr. Rayleigh can help train these guys. Their shortcomings are still too obvious, especially in hockey. In terms of hockey, Mr. Rayleigh's attainments are probably at the top of the world. Rayleigh waved her hand and said modestly, "You look up to me, I'm already an old man, but don't worry, since you are willing to hand them over to me, I will train them well, but don't forget your agreement with me." Lin Chen chuckled after hearing Rayleigh's words. "Don't worry, Mr. Rayleigh, I won't forget it." Lin Chen turned to look at Crocodile and the others and said, "Lao Sha, Enel, Monet, and Rosinante, Luo, you guys just follow Mr. Rayleigh and practice hard. I'll be waiting for you." Lin Chen also had some hesitations about whether Rosinante and Luo would train together. In the past 6 months, the distance between the two of them had deepened a lot, but Lin Chen was still worried about Rosinante. On the one hand, it's because he knows his true identity. Rosinante is now under house arrest, which makes him always wary of himself. On the other hand, Lin Chen only regarded Rosinante as a chess piece used by Sengoku at the critical moment. Neither of them particularly trusted the other. But after much deliberation, he decided to let the two of them train together. In the past 6 months, they had indeed developed feelings for each other, so they would not leave them alone. Although they were forced to join at first, Lin Chen felt that as long as they got along for a long time, they would accept this organization. If they don't accept it, Lin Chen has no choice but to use them as chess pieces. Anyway, this is the case for Doflamingo now. It is within normal limits for a few more people to be used as chess pieces. Chapter 42 3 years later. Advertise here. After doing all this, Lin Chen asked Crocodile. "Lao Sha, take care of them." Crocodile nodded to Lin Chen. "Don't worry, you have the courage to do what you want to do." Then Lin Chen and Rayleigh looked at each other again. "Mr. Rayleigh, I leave these people to you. I will do my best to teach them hockey's knowledge, don't worry." Looking at everyone, Lin Chen felt a little reluctant to leave. In the past year, everyone has formed a deep relationship. Big brother. Hug. Sugar seemed to know that Lin Chen was leaving and ran over to hug Lin Chen's thigh. Lin Chen held Sugar in his arms and touched her head. "After my brother leaves, Sugar must listen to my sister and everyone else." Sugar nodded in confusion. Seeing this, Lin Chen hugged him to Monet and said, "I have already told you the development direction of Snow Fruit. During this period, you will mainly study hockey with Mr. Rayleigh and study fruit development in the future." After looking at everyone for the last time, Lin Chen flew high into the sky, and finally turned into a black dot and disappeared from everyone's sight. Okay, now that Madara has handed you over to me, I have to train you well. At least you should work harder in the past few years and don't let him down. Rayleigh's voice brought everyone back to their senses, and they all thought of something at the same time. Yes, if it weren't for the fact that she and others were too weak, Madara wouldn't have put a few of them here to receive training from Rayleigh in order to slow down her plan. Thinking of this, a strong fighting spirit rose in the eyes of several people. Only by hard training and results can Madara not be disappointed in a few years. Seeing that everyone cheered up, Rayleigh smiled and sailed the ship away from the port. He was going to take everyone to other islands for training. This training lasts for 3 years. See Circle Calendar 1510, somewhere in the New World. Hurry and catch that guy. Don't let him take away the fruit. Damn it, why are there people making trouble at this auction? In a dark alley, a man in black robes was running with a golden fruit in his arms, and countless people from the Don Quixote family were chasing after him. The young man under the black robe looked at the fruit in his hand with joy on his face, but the pursuers behind him were chasing after him, and he was in danger at any time. Damn it, my men are all tied up elsewhere. I must not be caught. It took a lot of effort to get this fruit. Thinking of the consequences of being caught, the man in black robe ran even harder. While the chase was still happening in the alley, an invisible wave instantly enveloped the place. In an instant, countless people stood still, with the same expression on their faces, but they stood motionless. Even the fine dust in the air stopped at this moment, as if time and space were frozen. A man wearing a white mask and a black-red cloud robe walked into the alley. Lin Chen walked up to the man in black robe in front, looked at the pursuers behind him, and then pulled the man in black robe who was still and disappeared into the alley. Time and space returned to their original state in an instant, and the Don Quixote family's pursuers looked terrified. He disappeared. He was still here just now. A leader-like person had a gloomy expression. He must be hiding somewhere else. Keep searching. If you are alive, you will see the person. If you are dead, you will see the body. Lin Chen flew the man in the air and quickly left the place, arriving at the ship that had previously stopped at sea. Tesoro's face turned pale at this time, and he felt great pressure from the man in front of him. He was clearly running away in the alley before, and then appeared in the sky in an instant. He couldn't even think of resisting. He glanced at the boat out of the corner of his eye, and what he saw made him immediately terrified. Countless corpses were lying on the ship, and a dozen living people were being restrained, looking at the guy in front of them with fear. At this time, Tesoro didn't even dare to look at Lin Chen. Tesoro. Lin Chen's words brought Tesoro back to reality from fear. Yes. Yes, I don't know what the Lord wants from me. If it's for this fruit, I'm willing to offer it to him. At this time, the only reason Tesoro could think of for such powerful men to kidnap him was the golden fruit in his hand, and he could not think of any other reason. I came here for this fruit, but I also come here for you. Lin Chen's words made Tesoro frightened. I don't know what the adults want from me, I will do my best. Lin Chen didn't say anything when he heard Tesoro's words. You escaped from Mariejois 4 years ago, right? Tesoro's face turned pale when he heard Lin Chen's words. Not many people knew that he was a slave who escaped back then. As far as he knew, many slaves were arrested and executed by the world government. This man could not have come to execute him, right? Seeing Tesoro's frightened and nervous expression, Lin Chen frowned. Don't worry, I'm not here to kill you. Have you heard of daybreak? Tesoro looked surprised when he heard Lin Chen's words. He looked at Lin Chen's clothes again, and then he remembered the organization that spread around the world 3 years ago, Daybreak. He finally recognized the person in front of him who was somewhat familiar but couldn't tell who it was, the leader of Daybreak, Madara. Are you Madara-sama? Lin Chen nodded, turned around and asked about another thing. Do you hate world government and celestial dragons? Upon hearing Lin Chen's inquiry, Tesoro's expression turned ferocious for a moment, but then returned to normal and said with some hesitation. I do not understand what you mean. Lin Chen frowned, the Sharingan in his eyes slowly turned, and he controlled Tesoro in an instant, and then got the information he wanted from him. After doing all this, Tesoro looked at Lin Chen in horror. At that moment, all his consciousness went blank. It was as if he had told the man in front of him all his secrets. Tesoro, you have 2 choices now. The first is to eat the golden fruit, and then be loyal to me forever, and work with me to overthrow the world government and the celestial dragons. After all this is completed, I will help you resurrect the man named Shi. Della's woman. The second is that I will kill you and then go find another person. Tesoro's face was dull. Lin Chen's words contained a lot of information, and he had no time to think at all. Looking at Tesoro's dumb look, Lin Chen thought he didn't trust him. What? Don't you believe me? As he spoke, he walked to the corpse on the side, cut out some tissue from the corpse, and then came to a living person with a frightened expression. Reanimation jutsu. What happened next made Tesoro's eyes widen. The scene in front of him shocked his brain and made him excited at the same time. Countless white rags wrapped the living person, and then the white cloth broke apart, and inside was the appearance of the corpse on the ground. At the same time, the corpse opened its mouth to speak. Madara, you damn guy, why did you revive me again? Chapter 43. Welcome back. Seeing the man scolding him as soon as he came back to life, Lin Chen didn't get angry. Ryoma, okay, it's not just once or twice. Just do this a few times and get used to it. Longma was furious when he heard this and said to Lin Chen. Damn it, can't you stop disturbing me? The dead need to be respected too. Lin Chen picked his ears and didn't care. I know. Lin Chen said as he turned to look at the stunned Tesoro. How about it, Tesoro? Tesoro nodded like a chicken pecking at rice, thinking that Stella, who once brought him light, died tragically at the hands of the celestial dragons. In his heart, he had both hatred for the celestial dragons and ambition to resurrect Stella. After all, he also saw that the Madara in front of him was able to resurrect the legendary dead swordsman Ryoma. Lin Chen turned to look at Long Ma and clapped his hands. Okay, your mission is over, go back to sleep. After saying that he released the reanimation jutsu, Ryoma's body slowly broke apart before he could say anything. Madara, UXXX. As the dragon and horse disappeared and the disturbing words in his ears dissipated, Lin Chen also felt much quieter. In the past 3 years, he has not been traveling around the world. While he is exploring the strength of the countries that have joined the world government, he is also searching for corpses to experiment with reanimation jutsu. Through experiments, Lin Chen also discovered that the level of reanimation jutsu affects the strength and consciousness of the reanimated person. The LV-10 impure world reincarnation can exert 80% of the resurrected person's original strength and 100% of his consciousness. When the level is low, not only will the strength be greatly reduced, but even the consciousness will be unclear, and it can only become a puppet-like corpse that can be manipulated by others. However, in the past 3 years, after continuous training and point upgrades, Lin Chen's reanimation jutsu finally reached LV-10. This means that now he only needs to search for the corpses of the once strong men, and he can build an impure world reincarnation army at any time when his chakra is satisfied. Well, Madara-sama, can I ask you a question? Tesoro's voice came, and Lin Chen turned to look. I heard that the patriarch of the Don Quixote family, Doflamingo, is also a member of Don. Isn't Don behind his auction of the golden fruit this time? Why do you have to come in person? Lin Chen smiled when he heard Tesoro's words. He's disobedient. Don't you want to be disobedient too? Hearing Lin Chen's answer, Tesoro's heart sank to the bottom, which also made some small thoughts in his heart disappear instantly. Looking at Tesoro's appearance, Lin Chen continued. People's ambitions should be smaller, otherwise it's easy for people to lose themselves. Tesoro nodded quickly. Don't worry, Madara-sama, I will definitely do my job well. At this time, he roughly knew what was going on. It seemed that there were contradictions within Li Xiao. Then Lin Chen let Tesoro eat the golden fruit. As Lin Chen expected, the golden fruit cannot create gold out of thin air. It can only turn itself into gold and change gold. Shaking his head, Lin Chen's original expectations disappeared again, but his purpose of this trip has been achieved. I will take you back to Dawn to introduce you to someone, and you will work under him from now on. I need you to use the fruit to collect as much wealth as possible. Now you can use Dawn's contacts and resources in the underground world to your heart's content. You only need to leave all your wealth to me, do you understand? Tesoro nodded. Seeing this, Lin Chen did not hesitate and prepared to return to Sabaody archipelago. He hasn't been back for 3 years, and he doesn't know what the results of their training are. If everything goes well, then it will be time for Dawn, who has been silent for 3 years, to be born. Sabaody archipelago, Shaki's rip-off. Rayleigh, Crocodile, Enel, Monet, Sugar, Rocinante, and many others gathered together. Previously, they had received news about Lin Chen from informants in the underground world, and he was coming back. Rayleigh lay lazily on the lounge chair and murmured. Damn guy, he's been gone for 3 years. He promised to take me to see that brat. When he comes back, I will fix him. Crocodile glanced at Rayleigh, also looking forward to Lin Chen's return. The same is true for the rest of them. In the past 3 years, their appearance has also changed slightly, and their strength is different from the past, and they have improved rapidly. Crocodile, who is in his 30s, exudes the charm of a mature man. The sand crocodile on his shoulders has lost its previous harsh aura and has turned into a small crocodile that looks extremely restrained. His strength has also reached a state of return to nature. Realm. Enel is still a child at heart, but according to Rayleigh, Enel is one of the top 3 observation Hokages among all the people he has met. Rocinante, who is about the same age as Enel, has not changed much. She still has a gentle smile on her face and always treats the people around her with kindness. However, Luo is still a 14-year-old boy now, and has lost some of his immaturity. The most surprising thing is Monet. Now 18 years old, she has grown tall and slim. Because she ate snow fruit, her whole body has a cold charm. 8-year-old Sugar was held in Monet's arms, and her mind was full of what to eat tonight. Several people were quietly waiting for Lin Chen's return in the tavern. Dong dong dong. G. Acridine. It was already extremely dark, and everyone in the tavern was a little tired, but the sound of knocking and pushing the door cheered them up. After all, the tavern was closed today, so the person who came back must be Tesoro, who was standing at the door, looked nervously at the people in the tavern. He was speechless at the moment. Madara only told him that he was here, but how could he explain to them? Sorry, we are closed today. Please come back another day. Seeing Tesoro, several people thought he was a customer who came to buy wine. No, it was Madara who told me to gather here. After hearing Tesoro's words, several people immediately lost their tiredness. Really? Where is that Madara guy now? Why doesn't he come over? Looking at the excited crowd, Tesoro swallowed his saliva. Before he could say anything, Lin Chen's voice came from behind him. Ah, it seems like everyone misses me so much, ha ha ha. Hearing this familiar yet unfamiliar voice, Crocodile and the others were stunned. Looking up, a man in familiar clothes was looking at everyone teasingly, with joy hidden in his words. The moment they saw Lin Chen, countless words they wanted to say came to their throats, and after they spoke, they all tacitly formed one sentence. Long time no see, welcome back. Chapter 44 Birth. The moment he saw everyone, Lin Chen felt equally happy, and a sense of home that had not occurred for many years filled his heart again. Lao Sha, Enel, Mr. Rayleigh, Rocinante, Luo, Monet, Sugar, let me introduce to you, this is Tesoro. Everyone nodded to Tesoro, and Lin Chen introduced everyone to Tesoro one by one. Lin Chen said when introducing Crocodile. This is Crocodile, you will work under him from now on. He said and looked at Crocodile again. Lao Sha, let him go to the underground world to develop. He is a user with the golden fruit ability. I need him to collect wealth. Crocodile nodded and looked at Tesoro with a much kinder look. After all, this was going to be a cash cow in the future, and his days of being ripped off by Lin Chen were about to end. Then Lin Chen told several people what he had seen and heard over the years. Among the participating countries of world government, many countries are still very powerful, such as Alabasta and the Kingdom of Goa. There are also some non-franchised countries that are very miserable, but among them Wano-kuni is quite interesting. We can go and see it together if we have the opportunity in the future. The scenery at the Fishmen Island is also good, and it's quite close to here. You can stay at the Fishmen Island for a while when you go to New World. Listening to Lin Chen talking about various things in the world, a lot of yearning filled the eyes of several people. Monet watched Lin Chen talk freely, and was a little disappointed that Lin Chen was not surprised by his changes. However, he was soon attracted by the various stories Lin Chen told, and soon he was attracted by the previous stories. The loss is forgotten. So, I wonder how Mr. Rayleigh has trained you. After hearing Lin Chen's words, several people were a little excited. Seeing everyone's excitement, Rayleigh smiled. Why, are you afraid that I will mislead my disciples? Tomorrow you can test their strength in person. After hearing Rayleigh's words, Lin Chen also started to look forward to it. Early the next morning, several people took the dawn to the island where Rayleigh often trained them. Crocodile and the others stood one after another, looking at Lin Chen opposite and not daring to be careless. Rayleigh on the side looked at the few people leisurely. Tesoro swallowed his saliva when he saw this posture. He was nervous and looking forward to the upcoming battle. And Luo was still young, so Lin Chen didn't let him join in. Lao Sha, Enel, Monet, Rosinante, show your true skills. Looking at Rayleigh who was leisurely beside him, Lin Chen chuckled. Mr. Rayleigh, come with us. Rayleigh paused when he heard Lin Chen's words, and then heard Lin Chen say again. As long as you join in, I will take you to see my nephew. After hearing this, Rayleigh, who originally didn't want to pay attention to Lin Chen, was furious for a moment. You guy, I forgot to settle a score with you. I agreed to take me back with you, and it will be 3 years since you left. Let's see how I deal with you. As he said this, his whole body turned into a stream of light and rushed towards Lin Chen. He said lightly as he passed Crocodile and the others. What are you still doing? The battle has already begun. Several people woke up from a dream and immediately entered a fighting posture. Lin Chen looked at the people rushing towards him, and chuckled under the mask. It just so happens that this is an isolated island, so even if I explode with all my strength, no one will notice. Thinking of this, Lin Chen's blood boiled a little. Let's see how big of a surprise you can bring me. Sage art. Wood style. The tree world is coming. Sage art. Wood style. Wooden golem jutsu. Sage art. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. With 3 moves, the attacking people were instantly pushed back. The entire island was covered with countless trees and instantly turned into a dense forest. Seeing themselves trapped in the woods, Crocodile and the others immediately transformed into elements and flew high into the sky, but the trees continued to attack them as if they had become intelligent. After observing for a while, Rosinante seemed to have discovered something. The silence fruit was activated, and the voices of several people were instantly eliminated. The trees also lost their targets and stopped motionless in midair. Sand falls burial. Thousands of thunders. Snowstorm. The 3 people's combined attack instantly cleared the surrounding trees. Lin Chen, who was standing on the wooden golem, felt a little relieved to see this scene, but a figure also appeared behind him. Do you know how painful it has been for me to wait these 3 years? Rayleigh looked at Lin Chen's back and punched him, only to find that his fist was blocked by a jet black frame. At the same time, Lin Chen turned his head, his eyes glowing red. The moment he looked at Lin Chen, Rayleigh felt that all his senses were blocked. Although he used Hokage to break it in just a moment, Lin Chen's fist already appeared in front of him. Rayleigh didn't dare to be careless. There was a brief exchange between the two in the air, and Rayleigh had to retreat. What a profound Hokage. Lin Chen nodded as he looked at Rayleigh flying backwards. Having mastered emission, he is worthy of being Roger's deputy. Even though he is old now, he is still as strong as Admiral. I thought that Rayleigh was an old man, but Lin Chen was still very cunning and basically didn't leave much room to spare. Desert Giant. Thor. Avalanche. The attack from the 3 men in the distance struck again. Crocodile turned into a desert giant, covered in armor and attacking Lin Chen. The same was true for Enel, but at some point many iron particles appeared around his body. The most exaggerated thing is Monet's avalanche trick. The heavy snow coming from the sky has exceeded Lin Chen's wooden golem. From the bottom up, it looks like a natural disaster. Lin Chen was very satisfied after seeing how many people could do this kind of move, but the move in his hand had been replaced by another one. Sage art. Wood style. True several thousand hands. Susanoo. Intimidating. Susanoo's armor covers the wooden statue, looking like a dark Shira from a distance. After giving a few people 100 hands, the remaining 900 hands were not only covered with Susanoo's armor, but also covered with armament Hokage and attacked the few people. Boom. The dust and smoke dissipated. In order to prevent the island from being shattered, Lin Chen stopped at the critical moment. But this also caused several people to suffer considerable injuries. Crocodile thought it was okay when he reached the 10th hand, but when he saw that there were more than 100 hands behind him, he immediately dispersed the desert giant. If he continued to hold on, he was really looking for death. Enel's lightning and iron particles also brought some obstacles to Lin Chen. The high temperature brought by the lightning would inevitably burn the trees. At the same time, because the iron particles were too small, many iron particles could not dent Susanoo's armor. Phew. Monet's avalanche was also broken up by Lin Chen's blow. Rayleigh, the old fritter, had already hugged Sugar and pulled Luo to hide aside. Rosinante was still shivering in the corner. Seeing the destruction he had caused, Lin Chen felt helpless and dispersed all his moves before coming to a few people. Yes, you can do it. I declare that your practice is over. Several people looked at each other and felt relieved, but at the same time they were frightened towards Lin Chen. I thought that after 3 years of training, I would be able to reach a good level, but I didn't expect that when a few people joined forces, they couldn't even hold on for 10 minutes in Lin Chen's hands. This made a few people feel that Lin Chen was a monster. Chapter 45 New Changes. Back at Shaki's rip-off, everyone packed their bags and prepared to leave Sabaody archipelago. When several people asked Lin Chen about the direction, Lin Chen glanced at Rayleigh and finally said, "Let's go back to East Blue first." A few people didn't doubt that he was there, but they still felt a little disappointed. They thought they could show off their talents, but they didn't expect that Lin Chen actually planned to return to East Blue, a place where no one had shit. Seeing that several people were a little disappointed, Lin Chen smiled. "I heard that red hair pirates appeared in East Blue, which is also a suitable target for practice." After hearing Lin Chen's words, several people clenched their fists and their eyes were eager to try. After all, they have also heard of the reputation of the red hair pirates, who are among the top pirates in the New World, but they don't know how they can appear in East Blue now. Saying goodbye to Shaki, Rayleigh also took a long sword from Shaki before leaving. Looking at the long sword in his hand, Rayleigh smacked his lips. "Old man, long time no see." Seeing that several people were about to leave, Shaki wanted to stay with Rayleigh and whisper something, but because everyone was there, it ended up being nothing. As if she noticed Shaki's appearance, Rayleigh smiled calmly. "Just think of going on another trip and wait until I come back to bring you a gift." Shaki rolled his eyes at Rayleigh. "How old are you? You still think you are young. If you come back with missing arms and legs, I will not take care of you. You will live in a wheelchair from now on." As he said this, he glanced at Lin Chen and others again, and the meaning in his eyes was self-evident. Crocodile and the others looked at each other and laughed awkwardly. Rayleigh's current strength is only weaker than Lin Chen's in Daybreak, and the title of Vice Captain of the Pirate King is not in vain. They really can't think of anyone who can make Rayleigh's missing arms and legs. After saying goodbye, several people also left Sabaody archipelago on the dawn. Lin Chen looked at his own panel thoughtfully at this time. In fact, his strength has not changed much in the past 3 years. In the past 3 years, plus the bounty sent by Dalmatian and some of the scattered treasures he obtained, the total adds up to only a few 100,000 points. The most important thing is that the system has received another update. What surprised Lin Chen was that this update seemed to have something extra. After all, along the way, my system has always been half dead, slow to respond, stuck in recharge, and it takes a while to buy something, and I have to try again occasionally. However, after the update this time, the system seems to be more humane. In the past, Lin Chen had no response no matter how he shouted, but now he can make some basic answers. This had to make Lin Chen wonder if it was because the more recharges he made, the more intelligent the system became. It always felt like the system was becoming more and more comprehensive. After this update, the most eye-catching thing is that the most conspicuous 500,000 Rinnegan in the mall has been pushed out of the first place. At the same time, many products have been updated, such as Tailed Beasts, Sage of Six Paths Power, Tensagen, etc. Lin Chen is still very satisfied with this update. After all, the emergence of Tailed Beasts can make up for his long-standing shortcomings, the lack of chakra. In previous battles, Lin Chen found that his chakra was somewhat dwarfed. Unlike Senju Hashirama in Hokage, who casually consumed chakra to release ninjutsu. Although he had learned sage art and wood style, it was still insufficient compared to Senju Hashirama's terrifying amount of chakra. Focusing on the power of Sage of Six Paths, Lin Chen may understand the reason. 1 tail, 50,000. Second tail, 70,000. 8 tails, 190,000. 9 tails, 210,000. Ghetto statue, 250,000. Indra, power of Ashura, 300,000. Tensagen, 700,000. Power of Sage of Six Paths, 1 million. At the same time, Lin Chen's own panel also changed a lot. Host. Lin Chen 22. Skill, Special Ninjutsu. Impure World Reincarnation LV10, Sage Mode LV8, Wood Style Secret Technique LV8, Original Realm Stripping Technique LV7. S Level Ninjutsu. Flying Thunder God Technique LV8, Reikiri LV7, Lightning Style Kirin LV7, Fire Style Hauhuomiya LV5, Fire Style Dragon Flame Singing Technique LV5. A Level Ninjutsu. Chidori LV10, Rasengan LV10, Illusion Darkness Technique LV10, Chidori Sharp Spear LV9, 8 Inner Gates LV8, Water Style Great Waterfall Technique LV7, Water Style Great Shark Bullet Technique LV7. B Level Ninjutsu. Fire Extinguishing LV10, Shadow Clone Technique LV9. C Level Ninjutsu. Great Fireball Technique LV10, Phoenix Fire Technique LV10. E Level Ninjutsu. 3 Body Technique LV10. Other skills. Marine 6 Styles LV8. Abilities. Taijutsu LV8, Swordsmanship LV8, Illusion LV8, Armament Hockey LV8, Observation Hockey LV8, Conqueror's Hockey LV5, Eternity Mangekyo Senju Bloodline Dust Escape. Combat Power. Peak of Emperor Level. Points. 0. What has changed the most in the past 3 years is Lin Chen's thorough study of reanimation jutsu, followed by the use of illusions. When Lin Chen followed Long and infiltrated into various franchise countries, he often used illusions, which also led to a huge increase in his illusions. Looking at his strength on the panel, Lin Chen didn't feel that it was too low. Although he was very powerful in ninjutsu, he didn't develop too much power that truly belonged to this world. This also resulted in his level of haki and taijutsu swordsmanship being neither high nor low. However, in the absence of a large-scale war, Lin Chen's current strength is enough. After several people sailed for a period of time, they also passed an island on the way. Rayleigh looked at it from a distance and asked Crocodile to change direction. According to him, it is Daughter Island, an island that excludes men. With Enel recharging the Dawn, he could leave at any time. Lin Chen had no intention of inquiring. He changed course and quickly sailed from Calm Belt to East Blue. The people on Daughter Island were relieved when they saw the ship change direction. After all, it was the critical moment for the new king to ascend the throne, and they did not want anyone to disturb them. East Blue, Logue Town. Familiar streets, familiar surroundings, familiar movements. But the number of people at dawn has changed a lot. Madara, come and see what my lovely grandson likes. This is my first time as a grandpa, and I don't know what to buy. Old man Rayleigh, I said he is not your grandson, where do you put my status in this way? Okay, let's talk about our own things. You call me old man Rayleigh, and I will treat you like my son. Quote. Lin Chen was too lazy to argue with Rayleigh. He had seen this kind of elderly people a lot, and they just like to act recklessly by taking advantage of their age. The other people looked at Lin Chen and Rayleigh looking at each other, and they didn't know what the relationship between the two was. Chapter 46 Smart Lao Sha. Advertise here. Smoker and Hina were patrolling as usual, and after a while they spotted a few familiar people. After watching for a while, they realized that this was the Daybreak organization that had disappeared for 3 or 4 years. Now it seemed that even the members had changed. When Smoker looked at one of them, he was stunned. Hina, is that Pluton Rayleigh? Hina looked at the backs of several people in the distance with uncertain eyes. That's right, why did he appear here? And he seems to have joined the Dawn organization. The leader's mask and clothes are still the same. It's too easy to identify. Smoker took a closer look and saw that it was the same thing. Although Daybreak has not had any negative reputation so far, it even dealt with a large number of pirates in Sabaody archipelago 3 years ago, which earned Dalmatian praise. After this incident was reported to Marine, there were mixed reviews. Some people think that if Dawn is a good organization, they should not ask for bounties for killing pirates. After all, Marine has never asked for bounties for killing pirates, and they still only get a small salary every day. Others believe that Daybreak belongs to a private pirate hunter organization, and it is worthy of Marine to cooperate with them to capture pirates, and they can be given some rewards or fame afterwards. Finally, some people thought that when Li Xiao and their Marine snatched the snow fruit, they were on the opposite side of Marine, and they were Marine's enemies anyway. Regarding this matter, generally speaking, benevolent people have different opinions, and every Marine has a different answer in his heart. Putting aside the doubts in his heart, and thinking that this was his jurisdiction after all, Smoker walked over. Hina secretly observed a few people and immediately called Naval Headquarters for support if something was wrong. Isn't this the Dawn that hasn't appeared in a few years? It seems that we saw it 3 years ago. Smoker's voice sounded, and everyone turned to look. Crocodile looked at the man with white hair and a cigar in front of him and frowned slightly. Why did this guy look exactly like himself? He took the cigar out of his mouth and blew out towards Smoker. What's wrong with this Marine-sama? Smoker's forehead was puffed up by the smoke from Crocodile's cigar. Devil Fruit's ability activates, and more white smoke comes out of his nose and rushes towards Crocodile's face. Cough. After a while, the supermarket was filled with white smoke, and Lin Chen felt angry when he saw that Sugar was holding his nose and coughing. Hey, don't you two know there are children here? After hearing this, Smoker paused and immediately dissipated his power. He looked at Sutang, who was covering his nose with an apologetic expression, and his hands were at a loss. He didn't know what to do. Rayleigh also scolded Crocodile. How many times have I told you not to smoke in front of the children? Even if I smoke every day, I won't beat you to death. If you dare to smoke like this when you see my little grandson later, Lousy will beat you to death. Several people left the supermarket, and the air became much fresher. Smoker also ran to the side and bought an ice cream before sitting in front of Sugar. I'm really sorry, Uncle Smoke choked you. Before Smoker could react, Lin Chen punched him on the head. Don't call yourself uncle. Smoker had no time to feel the pain in his head, and looked at Lin Chen with only one question in his mind. How did he hit me? When did he hit me? Hina, who had been observing everyone, saw several people surrounding Smoker, and Lin Chen punched Smoker. Thinking that there was a conflict between them, he rushed out immediately without thinking. Pulling out the sword from her waist, Hina scolded everyone. What are you doing? Release Smoker immediately. At this moment, she felt a little nervous, but she never thought about escaping and looked at everyone with a fearless expression. Lin Chen glanced at Hina, grabbed Smoker's collar and threw him out. Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. It's just a joke. It's getting late, so let's say goodbye. See you later, Master Marine. After saying that, he led a few people away from here. Hina looked at the backs of the people and felt a little at a loss. Glancing at Smoker who was lying on the ground looking dazed, Hina frowned. What's wrong? Smoker shook his head. Fine. After a pause, Smoker continued. If you see them again in the future, you must stay away from them unless they are committing any illegal crime. Why? Hina is a little confused. Smoker didn't explain too much. He looked at the cigar in his hand for a moment, then stubbed it out with his hand. Several people left Logue Town. Along the way, Rayleigh became a little nervous from the initial expectation. From time to time, she would hang around Lin Chen and ask about Ace. Will he hate me? Will he hate me for not going over to save his parents? Will he? Okay, how can there be so much? He will see his parents in the future. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh was stunned and felt a little depressed. Yes, he will meet his parents in the future. I hope that their family can live happily in heaven in a few years. Ignoring what Rayleigh was thinking, Lin Chen was lying on the recliner with his eyes closed to relax. Crocodile quietly approached Lin Chen and asked, was one of the children in Windmill Village your nephew? Lin Chen opened his eyes and glanced at Crocodile. Lao Sha, you will know when you get back. Then he closed his eyes and stopped talking. Crocodile didn't ask any more questions, his eyes shining with wisdom. It is known that there is a child in Windmill Village who is Madara's nephew. This child is called grandson by Rayleigh, so the brother of Rayleigh's son's wife-in-law is Madara. As for whether he is an older brother or a younger brother, Crocodile doesn't know yet, but he already knows the relationship between Madara and Rayleigh. He was a little happy thinking about this, but what made him a little confused was whether Rayleigh had a son. Hasn't he always been alone? Crocodile seemed to suddenly understand something as if he had thought of something, and looked at Rayleigh with eyes full of sympathy. As the deputy of the Pirate King, his family must have been killed by the world government and Marine, including his poor son and daughter-in-law, leaving only his grandson who has been hidden by Madara until 3 years ago. Madara did not dare to go meet Rayleigh. Rayleigh on the side noticed that Crocodile had been staring at her, his eyes full of sympathy and pity. Rayleigh narrowed his eyes and said with an unkind expression. Hey, why are you staring at me? Crocodile shook his head when he heard Rayleigh's words, walked up to Rayleigh and patted him on the shoulder. Mr. Rayleigh, don't be sad, I understand, you still have us. After saying that, he turned around and walked away, leaving Rayleigh with an enigmatic figure. The rest of the people looked at Crocodile at a loss. Crocodile looked at everyone and smiled lightly, as if he had everything under his control. Don't worry, I know everything. Neuropathy. Rayleigh cursed secretly, thinking that Crocodile must have run out of cigarettes and gone crazy. P.S. I had an eye surgery on Friday. I can't watch electronic products these days, so I haven't updated much. I'm really sorry, I forgot to mention it. I will resume updating in the future. There is an outline and a plot. I won't be a eunuch. Chapter 47 Meeting with the Red Hair Pirates. Advertise here. East Blue, Windmill Village. At this time, in the tavern opened by Maginot and his daughter, a group of pirates were happily drinking beer. Hey, Luffy, to be a pirate, you have to learn how to swim. Shanks looked at Luffy and laughed. Luffy said with a dissatisfied look on his face. Shanks, don't underestimate me. The rest of the red hair pirates couldn't help laughing when they saw Luffy looking like this. Luffy, who was ridiculed by everyone, felt angry and sat in the corner glumly until he saw a treasure chest brought by the red hair pirates. This is curious. Luffy opened the treasure chest and was surprised to find a strange fruit inside. At the same time, there was a growl in his stomach. He turned to look at Shanks and the others, who were still laughing at him. Luffy took a bite of the fruit. Yeah, it tastes so bad. Shanks turned around when he heard Luffy's voice, and was surprised to find Luffy holding a fruit. The tooth marks on the fruit were very obvious. What? You actually ate this fruit? The others were shocked when they saw this. Luffy was a little confused, scratched his head and looked at Shanks in confusion. What's wrong, Shanks? I was a little hungry and happened to see a fruit here, so I couldn't help but eat it. After hearing Luffy's words, Shanks put his head in his hands. As if he thought of something, he suddenly grabbed Luffy's legs and hung him up. Shanks, what are you doing? To everyone's surprise, Luffy's legs slowly grew longer, and finally his face hit the floor with a bang. Ah, what happened? Shanks, help me. Young Luffy was panicking now, but there was nothing he could do now. Finally seeing that he couldn't change the facts, Shanks seemed to have resigned himself to his fate and had no choice but to tell Luffy about Devil Fruit. Luffy looked very surprised when he heard what Shanks said, but then became a little sad. I don't want to be a landlubber. Then I can't become a pirate. Looking at Luffy, Shanks sighed silently. Captain. Usopp's voice rang in his ears, and Shanks looked at him in confusion. I seem to have discovered a group of very powerful people approaching here. Talk about Cao Cao. Cao Cao arrives. The door of the tavern was suddenly opened by a group of people, led by a white-haired old man wearing glasses, who was still yelling. My sweet grandson. Grandpa is here to see you. Lin Chen and others followed Rayleigh into the tavern and found the red-hair pirates drinking in the tavern. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Usopp put his hand on the weapon beside him without leaving a trace. A fat man wearing a green turban bit a chicken leg and looked at Lin Chen and the others. Beckman slid his hand to the pistol on his waist. Shanks looked at the old man in the lead and was stunned. Rayleigh glanced around the pub and also set his sights on Shanks. Vice Captain. Your boy is Shanks. Obviously both sides recognized each other, which also made everyone in Red Hair Pirates breathe a sigh of relief. It's good that they are acquaintances of the captain. What made them a little confused was that they seemed to hear their captain calling the white-haired old man opposite him as the vice captain. When everyone took a closer look, their expressions changed drastically. Pluton Rayleigh. Roger's second in command. How come he is here? Obviously Rayleigh's appearance surprised everyone. Lin Chen walked to Rayleigh and looked side by side with Rayleigh at the red hair pirates opposite. When he saw that Shanks was still the same as before, but there seemed to be 3 more scratches on his eyes, and the corners of his mouth under the mask unconsciously curved. A hint of curvature. Red hair pirates. Shanks looked at the masked man in front of him and didn't dare to be careless. Of course he recognized the man in front of him. Dawn Leader. Madara. The mysterious man who once single-handedly fought against Akainu, Garp, and Zephyr. The Dawn organization he leads is now the Underground Emperor, and everyone wants to give him 3 points. At the same time, what puzzled him was why Vice Captain Rayleigh was with this person. Could it be that Vice Captain Rayleigh, who had retired, was born again? And also joined Breaking Dawn? All these questions surrounded Shanks' mind, leaving him puzzled. Okay, we are all acquaintances, why are you so nervous? Rayleigh's words indeed expressed Lin Chen's feelings, but his identity has not been exposed yet. Then Rayleigh walked up to Shanks and looked at him in surprise. I didn't expect that the kid who was on the boat could now stand alone. Shanks touched his head and felt a little embarrassed. No, but is Mr. Rayleigh born again? Rayleigh glanced back at Lin Chen and smiled softly. As you can see, I have joined Daybreak now. As for the reason, I can't say it yet. Lin Chen glanced at the red-haired people, and finally looked at the current tavern owner, Mariejois, and Luffy, who was looking at them in surprise. After thinking about it, it seems that the last time I met Mariejois was 4 years ago. 5 years ago. Meeting Luffy wasn't too rare, after all, he and Long had often secretly visited his silly son in the past 3 years. Crocodile stared at Beckman with interest. In his opinion, this guy was a good opponent and qualified to be his sparring partner. Suddenly, Luffy, who had been staring at Lin Chen, seemed to remember something. He pointed a finger at Lin Chen's mouth and was so excited that he couldn't speak. You are my uncle's friend. You gave us cotton-padded jackets that day. What surprised Lin Chen was that Luffy actually recognized him. Crocodile and Enel behind him also looked at Luffy with interest. They had gone with Lin Chen to deliver cotton-padded jackets. When they saw the confused eyes of other Daybreak members, they told the story about Luffy, only explaining that Luffy was a nephew of Madara. Lin Chen stared at Luffy for a long time, and finally walked up to Luffy and grabbed Luffy's face. It hurts. Ignoring Luffy's yelling, Lin Chen raised his eyebrows, and Luffy's face stretched out as he held his hand. Then Lin Chen grabbed Luffy's face with both hands and pulled it to both sides. As he expected, Luffy's face became like rubber. My lord, please stop teasing Luffy, it will hurt him. Mariejois couldn't help but speak out. Although she knew that the person in front of her would not hurt Luffy, she felt uncomfortable looking at Luffy's current state. After glancing at Mariejois, Lin Chen let go of Luffy's face and asked. Little Luffy, where are Ace and Perona? Luffy rubbed his cheek. Ace and Sabo went out to play pirate games. Aunt Perona was worried about them and went with them. They will be back for dinner in the evening. Lin Chen asked again after hearing Luffy's words. They are all going out to play pirate games. Why don't you go? Luffy shook his head, his eyes full of determination. Shanks are real pirates, I must join them. Chapter 48 Daybreak vs Red Hair Pirates. After sweeping away the people who were already mingling in the distance, Lin Chen came to Rayleigh's side and walked out of the tavern arm in arm. Ace isn't back yet. Let's wait here for now. They will be back in the evening. And let me tell you that the kid over there is Luffy, Garp's grandson. Rayleigh was stunned when he heard Lin Chen's words, and then looked at the childish Luffy in the pub with some evil intentions. Lin Chen frowned when he saw Rayleigh's expression. What are you thinking? You don't want to attack such a young child, do you? Although you are usually very disrespectful to the elderly, you are not like this. Let me say something ugly before. Luffy and Ace have been playing together since childhood. If you dare to attack Luffy, Ace will definitely not spare you. What are you thinking? How could I, Rayleigh, have a great reputation for a long time and take action against a child? Of course, the matter between Garp and I would not involve his grandson. What I didn't expect was that Garp actually protected Roger. Child. Lin Chen glanced at Rayleigh and didn't say anything. Over the past few years, he had also seen clearly what Rayleigh was like. As the vice captain of One Piece, he still had a big heart. Previously, he just wanted to play some pranks on Luffy to satisfy his heart. Just a bad taste. The two then chatted for a while, mostly about Ace. After a while, the two returned to the tavern. Lin Chen clapped his hands and said, "Everyone, it's still early. We've heard about your reputation as red hair pirates since dawn. We happen to have time today, so why not come and compare notes?" After hearing Lin Chen's words, the two groups looked at each other with fighting intent. Crocodile and the others have been itching for a long time, and they have been looking forward to fighting with them along the way to test their strength. After everyone in the Red Hair Pirates learned that Rayleigh was the former vice captain of their captain, they were very curious about this organization that attracted the reclusive Rayleigh to join it again. Therefore, after hearing Lin Chen's words, they were also full of fighting spirit towards Li Xiao and others. Seeing the fighting spirit rising from both sides, Lin Chen chuckled. "Please note that this time it's just a discussion. That's it. I don't want Mr. Rayleigh and your captain to get into a fight by then." As he spoke, he walked out of the tavern first, with a crowd of people following behind him. Finding an open space, Dawn and several people were eager to try. This time was a rare opportunity to practice. After all, the original duel with Lin Chen didn't count at all, because there were only a few strong men like Lin Chen in the world, and they were not of reference. The current strength of the Red Hair Pirates is also ranked high in the New World. If they can defeat the Red Hair Pirates in this duel, it means that the hard power of Daybreak has been greatly improved. It is no longer like Lin Chen was the only one in the beginning. High-end combat power. Therefore, everyone seemed to be particularly concerned about this duel. Crocodile glanced at Lin Chen, Rayleigh and Shanks who were standing still, and knew that these three people would not participate in the war. So he walked out first, looked at Beckman in the Red Hair Pirates opposite, and grinned at him. Beckman also knew that he had been chosen as his opponent by this guy. In fact, he still wanted to fight against Rayleigh instead of this crocodile. In his mind, Shanks also has the qualifications to become the Pirate King. He wants to know if he has the qualifications to become the Pirate King's deputy captain. However, since Crocodile singled him out by name, he would not despise the other party. He also felt a pressure from the other party. Then Enel, Monet, and Rocinante each picked their opponents. Red Hair Pirates will feature Vice Captain Ben Beckman, Sniper Usopp, Chef Lucky Road, and Ship Dr. Deeg. The two sides were ready, and under Rayleigh's suggestion, they did not choose a 1v1 format for this duel, but a collective battle. After all, in many future battles, it is usually the cooperation between cadres that can bring out greater strength. The four crocodiles looked at each other and quickly came up with a familiar method of cooperation. Several people quickly rushed over to test each other with their physical skills. The two sides struggled together, and it was just a simple test. After a while, the crocodile trio began to gradually use fruit moves. At this moment, Rocinante also had to withdraw from the battlefield. The three of them were all Logia's ability users, and they would be a natural disaster if they took action. Moreover, his own strength was already weaker. He had already gained a lot from this battle. Enel released thousands of thunders to attack Beckman and others indiscriminately, and at the same time, several thunder guns appeared from behind to lock on the few people and fly away. In the past few years, Enel has developed thunder fruit to a very terrifying level. As long as it is within the range of his thunder attack, the enemy can easily be struck by a weak electric arc. But it is these arcs that allow his thunder gun to sense them all the time, thus locking onto the enemy. At the same time, Crocodile and Monet's moves have been combined and released. Sand Falls Burial, Snowstorm. Countless snow particles entangled on the fine sand, carrying a cold wind as sharp as a knife, rushing toward Beckman and the others. The four of them did not dare to be careless and used their own special skills to fight against this natural disaster. Lao Sha, try to use your fruit abilities as little as possible. This is a rare physical training, just suitable for training the Hokage you learned from Rayleigh. Hearing Lin Chen's voice, several people looked at each other. They were a little over the top before, but slowly started to go all out, and then used such a wide range of moves. Lin Chen looked at Shanks who was watching the battlefield but was not worried at all and asked, "Aren't you afraid that your partner will get hurt?" Shanks was stunned after hearing this and smiled. "No, I believe my partner will win." Lin Chen also smiled. "I also believe my partner will win." The two of them turned their gazes to the battlefield, their eyes full of confidence in their partners. Seeing Crocodile and others dispersing their fruit abilities, Rocinante, who had previously withdrawn from the battlefield, joined in again, and the eight of them fought together again. This time the battle was purely a duel between physical skills and hockey, which also made several people fight heartily. As time passed by, several people collapsed on the ground and gasped, obviously exhausted. Lin Chen turned around and looked at Shanks. This time, the two sides were evenly matched. Shaking his head and chuckling, Lin Chen was not too disappointed. After all, their fruit abilities were not reflected in this battle. After all, these people are just competing, but they haven't shown their true skills yet. The crowd brought several people back to the tavern, and Shanks invited Li Xiao to have a dinner party with them at night, and Lin Chen readily agreed. Here he still has to wait for Ace and the others to come back. Night fell soon after, and just as Lin Chen was waiting a little anxiously, the door of the tavern was suddenly pushed open. Dayton hurried to Luffy and said breathlessly, Ace's ship was bombarded by a big ship. Tell me where your pirate friends are. Go borrow their ship. Hurry up. Chapter 49 How Should I Miss You? As soon as Dayton's words came out, the whole tavern instantly fell silent. Maginot anxiously ran to Dayton and asked, Miss Dayton, what is going on? Chunin couldn't help but shed tears from Dayton's eyes, and said hoarsely, It's the Celestial Dragon's ship. What to do? What to do? We have to hurry up and save them. Luffy was a little stunned after hearing Dayton's words, his eyes became moist, he looked up at Shanks and Lin Chen, biting his lip with his teeth and speaking tremblingly. Shanks, uncle, save Ace and the others. After hearing Luffy's words, Dayton seemed to have found a backbone, turned around and knelt down in front of Shanks and Lin Chen. Please, you must help me save Ace and the others. I can't lose them. Just lend me a small boat. Lin Chen helped Dayton up, but no one could see his expression. Who are you? Dayton was speechless looking at the man in front of him, and images began to form in his mind. Don't worry, I will go. Lin Chen comforted him and took action immediately. He didn't have time to worry about whether Shanks and the others would be with him, but he had to go. At this moment, his face under the mask was extremely gloomy. After rushing out of the tavern, Lin Chen turned into a stream of light and flew high into the sky, followed closely by Enel. In which direction? Enel's mental network was fully covered, and after a few seconds, he pointed in a direction. There. After hearing this, Lin Chen burst out in that direction at full speed, with a speed that even Enel could only catch up to. Everyone in the tavern also reacted, and the Sand Rider crocodile quickly followed Enel. At the same time, off the coast of the kingdom of Goa. Boom. Ha ha ha, sink that ship for me. Wait, I think I saw a good thing on that ship, catch her. I want her to be my 33rd wife. A ship with the flags of world government and celestial dragons was bombarding a sea area in the distance. Looking carefully, there was a small ship at the place where it was bombarded. There are 3 people on the boat. Perona, Ace, and Sabo. Damn it, why are these people attacking us? Ace and Sabo smashed their fists on the boat angrily, but there was nothing they could do. Perona gritted her teeth and manipulated the rudder to keep the ship steady, but after a while she found that the other side had stopped shelling and was heading in her direction. Be careful, the other side is coming towards us. Ace, have you spoken to Aunt Dayton? Ace nodded. Auntie, I used the phone bug to tell Aunt Dayton that she is on her way. I heard from her that Luffy's pirate friends and a bunch of uncles are here. Let's hold on a little longer. Perona looked sharply at the approaching ship and squinted her eyes. She could clearly see a celestial dragons on the ship who was wearing a bubble hood and had a fat head and big ears. Damn it, it's celestial dragons. Ace and Sabo were shocked. Celestial dragons. Perona felt powerless in her heart. Ace and Sabo were still young and didn't know what celestial dragons meant, but she had seen celestial dragons in Marineford. She also knows how much power the identity of celestial dragons contains. Finally, the celestial dragon's ship approached the small boat, and the 3 of them looked nervously at the people on the ship with cold sweats on their faces. When Saint Chalmok saw the 3 people below clearly, his eyes stayed on Perona. Yes, that's her. Take her back to be my 33rd wife. Take the other 2 back as slaves. As he spoke, several bodyguards in black rushed out from beside him, jumped off the boat and brought the 3 people up. Several people were unable to resist and could only be brought to Saint Charma. Ace also heard what the fat celestial dragons in front of him said and immediately stood in front of Perona without any fear on his face. Damn it, you fat pig, don't even think about taking my aunt away. Sabo on the side was a little hesitant, but also stood beside Ace. The 2 looked at each other with determination in their eyes. Damn, how dare these 2 bitches call me a fat pig. As he said this, Charma Kushung took out a pistol and pointed it at the 2 of them. Perona's heart trembled when she saw this, infinite fear arose in her heart, and her eyes were a little dazed. Elder brother. The scene in front of her seemed familiar to her many years ago, and the shadow immersed in Perona's heart was also aroused at this moment. Although her body couldn't help but tremble, Perona still stretched out her hands and tremblingly hugged the 2 people in front of her, protecting them in her own way. Saint Chalmok looked at the scene in front of him with a little madness in his eyes. He had never thought that a slave would dare to resist him. And Perona, whom he considered his 33rd wife, dared to protect the slaves who resisted him, which made him very angry. In his opinion, being able to be his wife is a very happy thing. If the previous 32 wives were not dead, how could he fall in love with Perona in this remote country? Thinking of this, Charma Kushung pulled the trigger without hesitation. Death. A bunch of lowly slaves. Boom. There was a tongue of flame from Chalmok's pistol, and a golden bullet flew out, heading straight for Perona's head. Just when it was about to hit Perona, a magical scene occurred. The bullet seemed to have been pressed on the pause button as it approached Perona's side. A golden bullet just stayed in midair. What? Charma Kushung couldn't believe his eyes, and then pulled the trigger several times again. Bang, 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 bang. Just like before, several bullets stopped in front of Perona, unable to move forward at all. Unlike Charma Kushung, the bodyguards in black around him instantly became vigilant and looked around them with solemn expressions. This phenomenon only meant one thing: someone was causing trouble around them. Perona, who originally closed her eyes tightly and waited for the result, slowly opened her eyes and looked at the bullets floating quietly in the air in front of her with a face full of disbelief. Ace and Sabo also looked at this phenomenon in surprise, with their mouths wide open and speechless. Perona stretched out her little hand and slowly touched the bullets in the air. The moment her hand touched the bullets, these golden bullets fell scatteredly on the deck, making a crisp sound. Saint Chalmik let out an unwilling roar. Damn it, what happened? All these scenes gave Perona a sense of déjà vu, and suddenly she seemed to remember something, and tears could not stop flowing from her eyes. The tears fell in the air, and just as Perona expected, the tears had already stopped in the air before they even touched the ground. Perona suddenly burst into laughter and raised her hand to wipe her tears, but more tears flowed out instead. Years of grief and longing burst out at this moment, making her nose sore. There is only one person who has this ability to make matters still and can protect her brother, Lin Chen. P.S. I went to the hospital for a re-examination today. When I came back, my eyes were so tired that I couldn't keep them open. I went to bed early. There is only one chapter. I will make up for it in a few days. Chapter 50. Are you my brother? Above the sky, Lin Chen stood quietly in the air. Mangekyo slowly turned to look at the scene below him. Next to them were Crocodile and the others who had arrived belatedly, as well as the red hair pirates who came with them. Shanks obviously also saw this scene below him, and he couldn't help but said aloud when he saw the lightning lingering in Lin Chen's hand. Madara, calm down. If you attack the celestial dragons, you will attract the Marine Admiral. Marine Admiral. Lin Chen chuckled lightly, his tone full of disdain. Shanks, what would you do if the people down there who were about to be killed by the celestial dragons were family members of yours? Who made the rules that you say are not allowed to take action against the celestial dragons? World government. These rules only work for those who have no strength. When your strength can surpass the world government, do you still need to abide by these bullshit rules? Shanks was stunned when he heard Lin Chen's words, and then fell silent. After saying this, Lin Chen looked at Crocodile aside and found that there was a trace of cold sweat on the foreheads of several people. No matter what, the idea that celestial dragons are existences that cannot be messed with in this world has been deeply ingrained. If you want to get rid of them, you can't change them just by talking. Yo yo yo, when did the sky get so busy? A figure flew from a distance and landed on the sand of Crocodile. Lin Chen and others were not surprised, but when Shanks saw this man's face clearly, he was shocked and speechless. Leader of the Revolutionary Army. Dragon. Even Rayleigh was a little surprised that Long appeared in this place. What surprised him even more was that the relationship between Long and Lin Chen seemed very unusual. After looking at the people behind him, Lin Chen said with murderous intent in his words. No matter how powerful the celestial dragons are, or how powerful the forces behind them are, if they dare to harm my family, there is only one result: death. Rocinante's heart trembled when she heard Lin Chen's words, as if she was also affected by Lin Chen's murderous intention. After taking a look below him, Lin Chen flew towards Charma Kushung's ship. Everyone behind him looked at each other and followed. At this time on the ship, Perona had lost her previous fear and had strong expectations for what was going to happen next. Hateful. Saint Chalmik saw that Perona's face in front of him had no longer fear, but was filled with joy, which made him even more angry. Damn pariah. As he spoke, he picked up the pistol and threw it at Perona. Whoosh. A lightning pillar instantly pierced Charma Kushung's arm, and half of his arm fell to the ground, giving off a burst of burnt energy. Ah 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 ah. Saint Charma rolled his eyes in pain. The bodyguards in black around him stood there blankly as if they had seen something terrible. Only one person, with a little perseverance, secretly took a picture of Charma. Photos of the attack on the saint. After landing on the deck, Lin Chen walked towards Charma Kushung step by step. No one around him dared to step forward to stop him. It hurts so much. It hurts me so much. It hurts so much. Charma Kushung held his broken arm and rolled on the ground in pain. Tears and snot flowed out all over the hood. Glancing at the bodyguards in black around him, before Lin Chen could say anything, they were all entangled in the crocodile sand. Sand-bound coffin. In the end, only Saint Chalmik was left on the huge ship. Perona hugged Ace and Sabo, staring blankly at Lin Chen, who was wearing a black robe and mask. She moved her lips but was speechless. Glancing at Perona, Lin Chen did not choose to recognize her at this time. Behind him, Luffy broke away from Dayton's arms and ran to Ace, hugging the three of them and crying. Long walked to Lin Chen and asked, "How about this? What should we do with the celestial dragons, Saint Chalmik?" Lin Chen glanced at Charma Kushung, who had passed out from the pain, and said, "Centralized, I want to see how the world government responds to this incident at this year's World Summit." Long nodded and then asked, How reliable are the kings who will participate in the World Summit this year? Lin Chen said. You can believe that they are all from our side. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Long breathed a sigh of relief and felt much more at ease. This way I feel relieved and just wait until they bring up the issue of the Republic at the World Summit to test the world government. As if he had thought of something, Long looked at Perona, Ace and Sabo, with an inexplicable brilliance in his eyes. He had been watching Perona and Ace around before. He was originally going to save a few people, but he didn't expect that Charma Kushung's attack was blocked in a strange way. The ability to suspend matter made even him sweat. After carefully sensing it with Hokage, he realized that Lin Chen and the others were in the sky. When he came to the sky, he heard Lin Chen say that if the celestial dragons dared to provoke his family, he would definitely kill them. This makes Long a little confused. Considering what is happening now, does that mean that one of Perona, Ace, and Sabo is his family? When old man Garp sent Perona back, he specifically asked him to take good care of the three of them. He didn't think there was anything bad about having an extra sister, Long. He also watched Ace and Luffy grow up, but none of the three knew that he was secretly taking care of them. He knew the family relationship between Perona and Ace. Apart from himself, old man Garp, and Guion from Marine, they were the family elders of these people. He really couldn't think of anyone else who was their family member. Now comes the interesting part. Is it possible that Sabo is Madara's family? Thinking of this, Long looked at Lin Chen with increasingly puzzled eyes. He vaguely discovered something, but he was just a little bit able to connect all the clues, and then he would be able to guess Lin Chen's identity. Glancing at the dragon beside him, Lin Chen didn't say anything. Likewise, Rayleigh, Crocodile, Dayton, Maginot, Shanks and others also noticed something was wrong. The words Lin Chen said in the sky seemed to indicate something. They looked at Lin Chen's back with burning eyes, as if they were about to see through him in the next second. Walking to Perona's side, Lin Chen sighed deeply. The little girl who used to call her brother in her arms at the age of 8 or 9 has now become a teenage girl. The battle at Marineford seemed to have happened yesterday in Lin Chen's mind. Perona stood up and looked at the man in front of her. She also recognized that this was the uncle who came to visit them a few years ago, but he said at the time that he was a friend of her brother. Now it seems that there are a lot of doubts. Tears moistened her eyes. Perona's heart was in her throat, her lips trembled slightly, but Perona still mustered up the courage to ask. Are you, brother?